The May 18th, 2026 legislative session of the Anne Arundel County Council is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silent. Mr. Volke will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Please pray in a manner consistent with your faith as I pray in a manner consistent with mine. Father God, let us take a moment of reflection. We ask for wisdom and discernment as we undertake the public business before us tonight. May those gathered here be guided by a commitment to fairness, to the common good, and to the well-being of all those we serve. May we set aside self-interest and act with integrity, humility, and respect for one another. Amen. Amen. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please read the ethics statement.
The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The Chair of the Ethics Commission has asked that those who wish to testify in any form review the general information on lobbying sheet located on the Ethics website under Forms and Publications. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, please contact the Ethics Commission at 410-222-4412.
Before we open our discussions and public hearings, I would like to remind everyone in attendance, whether testifying or as a member of the audience, that we must maintain decorum at all times within these chambers. Please understand that individual conversations in the audience are very disruptive to the proceedings, and I would kindly ask you to step out of the chambers if a side discussion is necessary. We will now open our invitation to the audience. This is an opportunity to speak briefly on any subject not included in the printed agenda. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received one piece which was shared with the Council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts using our online testimony tool. We have 3 people signed up ahead of time: Corey Smith, Bradley Schneider, and Dr. Matthew Fogg. And if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda, you may come up at this time. Yes, sir. You can go ahead.
Yeah.
Go right.
My name is Brad Snyder. I live at 7516 Hollybrook Road, and that's in Glen Burnie, Maryland.
Go right ahead.
Okay, hello, my name is Brad Snyder. I am a lifelong resident of Glen Burnie. I'm here tonight to express my opposition and concerns shared by many residents regarding the proposed trail to Corcoran. I have 2 children. One lesson I've always taught them is very simple: never blindside people that is affected by your decision. Unfortunately, that's how many residents feel they have been treated by the Department of Public Works, Parks and Rec, and leadership of this county. Back in September, residents received a letter announcing the plan for a half-mile trail through a wooded area behind approximately 40 homes. Many of us attended a meeting last week expecting a discussion and community input. Instead, I felt like the decision had already been made. During this meeting, I asked a simple question: what is the purpose of this trail? Officials pointed back to a PowerPoint slide saying, "Trail to Corcoran." To me, that is not an answer. I explained to the county official that if you cannot have clearly explained what the public need and requirement and benefit of this project is, you can't impact an established neighborhood in Glen Burnie. I support recreation, walking, biking, and responsible infrastructure, but placing a public trail behind private residents raises serious concerns about privacy, security, noise, safety, and overall characteristic of our neighborhood. Residents are also concerned about the impact to a wooded buffer that currently provides privacy, drainage, and woodland habitat. Finally, I question whether this project provides enough public benefit to justify these impacts, especially when nearby roads could be instead improved with sidewalks or other safe pedestrian infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Okay. Mr. Nimhart.
Glen Burnie, Maryland. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the County Council. I wanted to start off with a brief story about an encounter I had with Pete a few weeks ago. We ran into each other at an event, and we actually got to talking for about 30, 40 minutes while my wife was standing off to the side in heels for 30, 40 minutes. So sorry, baby. But when we were done, I brought Pete over to introduce him to my wife, and she just said how, oh man, I'm so relieved. And we're like, why? And she's like, well, you guys were so animated. I thought you guys were about to get into a fight or a brawl or something. So, we kind of chuckled at that, but I get a kick out of that story because I think it demonstrates just how passionate Pete and I are about, what's good for Anne Arundel County. And while we have the same end goal in mind, we may have differences in how to get there. And I think that's what this whole body is about. But I also want to talk about how there's a fine line between investing in a community and having a vested interest in a community. Private developers do not invest in communities. Doing so would eat at their profits, obviously. They have a vested interest in the community. Once they complete their project and make their profits, they wash their hands of the community and move on. Now, I acknowledge that there are requirements that mandate developers to invest in a community, but it's not proactive on their part. Furthermore, what's the point of those requirements if they continue to be watered down? One is hard-pressed to find a private developer investing in a community because they have no long-term interest in that community. They make their profit and get out. The traffic, overcrowded schools, and overburdened infrastructure are all left for the community to deal with. Now, I'm more inclined in giving more leeway to neighborhood faith-based organizations because they invest in their communities and have a long-term stake in the surrounding community. They are also naturally incentivized to be proactive and course correct for the unintended results of their projects. So I just ask the County Council, please do not fall for the developer sales pitch. I've dealt with developers in all facets of life, including as an end user, and they have a temporary interest in the communities that they affect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Nimhard. Is there anyone, no clapping, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay. The invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution, or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of the legislative sessions of May 1 and 4 and budget sessions of May 11, 12, and 13, 2026.
Minutes for May 1st. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 11:10 a.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Ms. Hummer, was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland. Minutes for May 4th. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:04 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Mr. Smith and was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Boy Scout Troop 835 Arnold. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland. Minutes of the May 11th budget session. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 10:08 a.m. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland. Minutes of the budget session on May 12th. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 9:10 a.m. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland. And minutes for the budget session on May 13th, 2026. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 2:08 p.m. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the legislative sessions of May 1st and 4th and budget sessions of May 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2026?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The minutes of the legislative sessions of May 1st and 4th and budget sessions of May 11th, 12th, and 13th, 2026 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 4626, an emergency ordinance concerning current expense budget, higher education fund, Anne Arundel Community College, transfers of funds. Bill number 4726, an emergency ordinance concerning current expense budget, Board of Education supplementary appropriation and transfers of funds. Bill number 4826, an emergency ordinance concerning current expense budget, fourth quarter supplementary appropriations. Bill number 4926, an ordinance concerning zoning, parking, outdoor lighting, and signage, signs. And Bill number 5026, an ordinance concerning pensions, retirement plans, personnel, classification and pay plans, classified service and exempt service, public ethics, financial disclosure.
Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the resolutions to be introduced this evening.
We will not be introducing any resolutions this evening, Madam Chair.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of bills Bill number 1726 as amended, and Bill number 1826 as amended.
Bill number 1726, an ordinance concerning General Development Plan, Region 5 Plan, and Bill number 1826, an ordinance concerning Comprehensive Zoning, Region 5.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Christina Pompa, our deputy planning and zoning officer, Cindy Carrier, our planning administrator, and Mark Wildonger, our senior planner, all from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Bill 1726 and Bill 1826 adopt the region plan and comprehensive rezoning for Region 5, which covers Odenton, Piney Orchard, Gambrels, Woodwardville, Crofton, and Two Rivers. This is the last night for amendments. It is the last night on any region plan bill to be amended. So when we complete this bill, we will have completed the entire comprehensive rezoning of the county. I know there are folks here to testify and some amendments to discuss, so happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. Do any council members object to a joint public hearing on bills number 1726 and 1826, which are both related to Region 5? So we will now open the joint public hearing on Bill number 1726 and Bill number 1826. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 2 pieces for Bill number 1726 and 81 pieces for Bill number 1826, all which have been shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. I want to reiterate that we don't clap or boo or hiss, but if you are in support of someone's testimony, you may stand up, or you can do your hands like this, do some jazz hands to have that. So you can show your support in those ways. So we have 4 people signed up to speak: Eric Bernholtz, Sally Hiller, Judith Wagner, and Mary Tobin. And if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 1726 or 1826, you may also come up. There's 6 seats. You can fill the ones they have, and then when those 6 are done, we'll call up an additional one. So everybody who's standing is not going to be able to sit up here right now. But fill the seats, and then the others wait until the next round.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could I make the same request that I made last time to ask each person testifying, if you're testifying about a specific piece of property, to please let us know the location of that property, not
Yes.
just
Not just the number, because
just
we
the
have a
number.
number of amendments tonight, so it will be helpful if people can state which property that they are addressing. Yes, sir. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, yes, Judith Wagner was one of the ones that signed up ahead of time. If somebody would give their seat and let her go first, since she was one of the first 4 on there. Thank you. And then we'll fill it right back up. So, yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Eric Bernholz, and I reside at 1429 Bedstone Lane, Odenton, within the watershed village of Two Rivers. I come before the council to ask them to ensure that parcels O and N of Two Rivers are zoned as open space within Bill 1826. Let's not pave over wetland, steep slopes, or unspoiled land that the Two Rivers developer promised to the community as parkland. If this property is zoned as residential and developed with homes and streets, there is no going back. No chance to have a park or field that the whole community can enjoy. We will just have more traffic, more pavement, and less nature. Let's not build 377 more million-dollar homes on these parcels. In a beautiful, rural, and rustic community, as this does nothing to address the county's goals of affordable and attainable housing. Instead, let's make the developers of Two Rivers keep their promises to the Forks of the Patuxent Improvement Association and to the current owners within Two Rivers, and not build more houses in a peninsula neighborhood with a simple 2-lane road with limited access. Let's make the zoning of these 2 parcels agree with the planned unit development plan developed when Two Rivers was proposed, as well as the county's stated goal of Plan 2040, and zone them as open space. Let's listen to the zoning request of the people that live there, instead of listening to donors, lobbyists, and developers who don't. Thank you for the council's time.
Thank you, Mr. Burnholz. Yes, ma'am.
Sally Hiller, 1536 Myers Station Road. Reasons for keeping the remaining parcels on Myers Station and Grays Ford Road as open space or rural. First, the Stakeholder Advisory Committee appointed by the County Council studied the region, listened to and gathered responses. They recommend preserving the agricultural and rural character of the area. 2, the Office of Public Zoning, highly qualified county employees entrusted with the responsibility to study and recommend changes, supports the changing of zoning to OS in that bulk parcel O and R. The county has no plans for public transportation into an area where 2,060 homes already cry for relief on the overburdened transportation systems. Walk and Roll Anne Arundel lifts up a beautiful dream of a healthy county, yet we are encouraging the use of bikes, strollers, and walkers onto a scenic, historic country road where there are neither shoulders, sidewalks, nor plans to provide for this. The topographic challenges to address upzoning will delete mature trees, native plants, and push the deer, otter, and eagles from their habitat. Ongoing construction of residences and impervious driveways and streets will continue to challenge stormwater management, resulting in flooding in locations previously unaffected. Changing the zoning of parcels O and R ignores a covenant that was made in good faith, is registered with the county, and runs with the land. This area of Anne Arundel County is rich with history. The Susquehannocks' hunting grounds, a pre-Civil War grist mill, a slave graveyard, the 1800 Swiss ambassador's summer home, St. John AME Zion Church serving freed slave with possible underground railroad connections, even a log tavern from the 1800s, the stopping place for many crossing the river at Grays Ford Road.
Thank you, Ms. Hiller. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is in regard to 876 Maple Road.
Okay, and please give your name and
Yeah,
address.
my name is Mary Tobin. I live at 806 Maple Road, and I'm the head of the Maple Road Community Association. We had other folks who wanted to come, but they were working. We object to this attempt to negate the final draft recommendations of the Planning Advisory Board about this piece of property. Ours is a long-established residential street. Introducing commercial activity into this residential corridor disrupts the long-term character and stability of our neighborhood. It negatively impacts our quality of life and threatens the stability and long-term value of the entire neighborhood. The applicant references nearby commercial zoning, but those commercial parcels are connected directly to Gambrills Road, not Maple. And it is not correct to say that they're keeping it as commercial because it is split, residential and commercial, for that piece of property. Maple Road is very narrow. It's built for residential use. We have to work with the West County Police every year with the corn maze because emergency vehicles cannot get through. Worse, the South Shore Trail crosses Gambrills Road directly at Maple, and it's already a hazardous traffic area because it's a big hip. And then the bus stop is right up there. So, and the corn maze is not agribusiness, as was noted, but it's actually agritourism. I worked on that master plan. The county avoids spot zoning because it causes inconsistent patchwork development, as noted in the Planning Advisory Board's recommendation to turn it to RLD in the final draft plan. There have been no changes in neighborhood and residential conditions since the last zoning.
Thank
And
you.
our neighborhood is against it.
Thank you, Ms. Tobin. Ms. Wagner.
My name is Judy Wagner. I live at 1210 Beaver Tree Drive in Odenton. I want to express my appreciation for the email I received this morning from Councilwoman Hummer regarding her reasons for supporting the amendment to Parcel O provision in 1826. At least in my reading, her main argument is that this zoning change is unprecedented and different from long-standing practice in AA County, that a parcel should never be downzoned without the permission of the owner. My research and discussions with knowledgeable people has told me that this situation is unique. A rezoning to bring a parcel of land into compliance with both the land use envisioned in Plan 2040 and the land use approved under the Two Rivers PUD. The proposal of the county executive appears to have come to that view independently, without any input from our community. I was happy to find the county holding the developer to his promises over the years, made both to the county and to us homebuyers, to keep Parcel O as open space. I understand that a representative from the county's, this is my main point, the representative from the county's Office of Law is here tonight, and I would implore somebody on the council, anyone on the council, to ask her the legal reasoning behind the decision of the executive to change the underlying zoning of this parcel to open space. That way, we residents can more fully evaluate the two views regarding the appropriate way to go on this parcel. So please ask the county attorney to speak on the legality and defensibility of this provision as it was introduced. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. Mr. Holman.
Good evening, Madam Chair and County Council members. My name is Jim Holman, and I reside at 1546 Meyer Station Road. The good, the bad, the ugly. The good, pre-Two Rivers, abundance of wildlife. You knew who your neighbors were. You could walk on our backcountry roads. A 10-minute drive was a 10-minute drive. You could pull out of your driveway safely. The bad. Two Rivers development began to take hold. Wildlife began to dwindle, traffic increased, stormwater runoff from the development caused significant damage to adjacent properties. The circle was installed at Meyer Station Road, Conway Road, and Patuxent Road. The ugly. Two Rivers changed from a 55 and older community to all ages. The 55 and older community shared a mutual respect with our scenic and historic roads and our simple way of life. They became our new neighbors and friendships developed. Then the all-age group, for most part, was also neighborly. However, they did not share the same respect for our community. Aggressive driving, tailgating seemed to become the norm. Traffic increased. You could no longer safely pull out of your driveway. A 10-minute drive could take upward of 20 minutes, if not more on some days. Wildlife where there doesn't seem to be much of it around anymore. Trespassing from teenagers started to occur. If an emergency occurred and we all had to evacuate, good luck. Each of you were elected to your position to serve for the good of your communities. You were to put laws and practices in place to protect our communities, not overwhelm them. You were elected to put our interests as a community first. Instead, you are putting the developer's interest first. You don't have to live with your decisions to create overdevelopment, increased traffic, and changes to our normal way of life. You seem to have gone from representing your constituents to representing your developers. How about getting back to representing us, your constituents?
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Good evening, Madam Chair and County Council members. My name is Debbie Holman. I live at 1546 Meyer Station Road in Odenton. I'm actually not sure what parcel numbers they are. It's either O and R or O and N, but it's the intersection of Race Ford and Meyer Station where they want to build the 377 homes. Two Rivers developers promised our community years ago they would only build 2,060 houses. There were never plans to build on this property. It was supposed to be put into a conservation easement. Region 5 Advisory Committee listened to the concerns of the residents and along with planning and zoning recommended these parcels remain open space. We do not need 377 additional homes in our rural area. Madam Chair, you currently represent the residents of District 4 where we live. You're very familiar with our neighborhood and the surrounding area. I went to your website, juliehummer.com, to see if there was information on where you stand on some issues. Under public safety, you believe firefighters and police must have the best training and equipment and receive competitive pay so we keep the best. Everyone, I'm sure, would agree with that. However, there's currently a shortage of police and firefighters, and that leaves our communities that already are in existence today at much greater risk, and more development would stretch that even thinner. Under economic growth, you note that a strong school system is one of the key factors in growing our area, and infrastructure such as school capacity and road improvements must keep pace with development. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. The schools are overcrowded, and primary and secondary roads are dangerous because of the amount of traffic they carry. Under community, you appear to be an advocate for preserving green space. So imagine our disappointment and our surprise when 2 weeks ago you introduced Amendment 10 against the recommendation of Planning and Zoning and the Advisory Committee and proposed changing the zoning on a 27-acre parcel on Meyer Station and Grace Ford from open space to R1. It was voted on and passed. That is not preserving green space. People who voted you to county council in these positions put a lot of trust in all of you. You make decisions that affect us and our neighborhoods and our communities. Developers have too much influence. Growth has to be controlled, reasonable, and make sense. Right now, it does not. Please vote no on these amendments. It is not in the best interest of our neighborhood or our community.
Thank you, Ms. Holman. So if you've already spoken, go, and others can come forward and fill the seats. And yes, ma'am, you can go ahead.
My name is Jan Randall. I live at 4024 Curl Dock Lane, Odenton. I'm speaking on parcel O and N. I was not going to speak this evening until I read Ms. Hummer's justification for not supporting her constituents and that we must trust the county. I do not trust this county Office of Planning and Zoning to do what is just. From the beginning, when money passed hands in order to receive a permit for Two Rivers, the Office of Planning and Zoning has been complicit. Two Rivers developers made promises to residents as lures to buy within Two Rivers. First a golf course, then a mixed-age community, an environmental park, common ground classifications changed to reforestation are all promises made. And of course, the county has approved all changes made with no regard to what we who are paying taxes have been promised. Additionally, planning and zoning allowed homes to be built so close together that in some instances, the siding of some homes is melting from the reflection off of neighbors' homes, and homeowners are left with the cost of siding replacement only to have it melt again. The lots are so small, the all-ages children literally have no place to play. Planning and zoning has created a very dangerous traffic peninsula, putting residents' lives at risk. And you ask me to trust planning and zoning who allows developers to run roughshod over residents? No, I don't. It is time for the county to step up and protect its residents and keep one promise made to retain open space on parcels O and N.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Ms. Mignon.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for letting us address this. I'm going to approach this from a different viewpoint of some of my wonderful neighbors. They may be mad at me, but that's how it is. Okay, I am Jean Mignon, a 33-year resident of Anne Arundel County. I reside in Two Rivers, and I do oppose this proposed legislation because I'm not unfamiliar with zoning. I led the citizens in the largest zoning battle in the history of this county, which was against Jack Kent Cooke, and some of you might remember that. I also led the citizens against a NASCAR track. So when citizens approached the legislature in that time to ask for something similar to what I see this evening, we were told planning and zoning and legislation were two distinct divisions of this government. We were told to let the system work, and I'm sorry, I do not agree with my neighbor. It did work. It should work. I did also chair the Jessup, Maryland City Small Area Plan under Janet Owens and served on the zoning board for the county. And my experience tells me, and this is my principle, this is why I'm here on this principle, it would be a large error on this part of this county to approve this. I do not attribute validity normally to the slippery slope theories, but I do believe in this case it would be foolish and irresponsible in the long run to ignore the future ramifications of this kind of legislation. I appreciate Ms. Wagner bringing up what she brought up when she spoke. No one wants more development in any various community. Everyone wants to be the last house built. Environmental concerns, infrastructure concerns, educational for children's concerns are all real. And everyone has an argument against construction. And how do we have to cope with this? through planning and zoning. To diminish, oh, I'm so sorry, I will give this, but separation of the branches.
Thank you, Ms. Mignon.
Thank you. May I give this to you? And thank you for listening to me.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to share today regarding, on behalf of my father, Raymond Manuel. My name is Nika Kelly, and I am in support of Amendment 10 for the property at 2664 Evergreen Road. And I'm hoping that we're able to get this ratified so that we can move on to the next step. I appreciate you chatting with me about what would occur today, and am grateful for being allowed to, our property will be rezoned so that we can go to the next step. So that's all I know to say. I'm in favor of it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ryle.
My name is Ed Reel. My home is 1534 Yellow Sand Lane in Odenton. I am here this evening to encourage your support for Bill 1826 as submitted by the Pittman administration with respect to downzoning parcels O and N to 100% open space. I would like to begin by thanking the council chair for sharing her reasoning for supporting tonight's amendments. That being said, I would like to respectfully offer some counter arguments for the council's consideration. As noted in 2006, a special exception was granted to allow for the Two Rivers PUD. In exchange for allowing the developer to build 2,060 high-density housing units on some parcels, other parcels would remain undeveloped. Parcel O was to have a golf course. Parcel N was designated for community gardens. In 2013, a revision to the PUD was approved to change the golf course to environmental park. I'm still trying to learn how the sausage is made with respect to zoning and permitting new developments. Currently, I do not understand what is the point of granting a special exception if the developers can later ignore some of the terms. I think most of the people in this room tonight are honorable people. So when they sign an agreement, it is with the intention of complying with that agreement. It has been 20 years since the special exception was signed and 30 years since it was amended. Why is the county still waiting for the developers' commitments on parcel O to be realized? If there are members of the county council who have not read the Two Rivers PUD, I encourage you to do so. A 2006 version has been provided online. I have submitted these comments exercising my First Amendment rights to speak freely in county proceedings as affirmed by Maryland's SLAPP laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reel. Yes, ma'am.
Am I on? Okay.
All you.
Hello, my name is Kathy Fleshman. I live at 1280 Myers Station Road, Odenton, Maryland. I am here tonight to testify as a homeowner and a resident of the Forks of the Patuxent, Region 5. When the last region planning process began, the call came out for volunteers to participate in the process. It has been a long process with many meetings. I checked out with the application and everything in the beginning. It's been, I'm sure, very grueling for those who were on it. During the process, SAC, PAV, and Planning and Zoning each recommended that zoning for parcel O remain open space to align with the covenant established between the Forks and Two Rivers. In regards to Amendment 9, I'm opposed to the change to conservation to low-density residential on Grace Ford Road. We, the people, have spoken. There are many needs in the different areas of the county. In my area, we need to preserve what little space we have left. Our wildlife is vanishing, our streams and ponds are disappearing, the land is eroding, which has caused much flooding, and traffic is becoming a nightmare. That is what more development has brought to us. Why ask residents to participate in future planning for their communities in the county if they are not listening? I have asked the county council here to honor the recommendations that were given to you on behalf of the people who live here. Please leave our open space as is. No more bricks, mortar, or blacktop. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fleshman. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Colin Shorter. I live at 1406 Lavender Cliff Way in Odenton, and I am a Two Rivers resident. First, I want to apologize if I seem less prepared than some of my fellow residents speaking tonight. I was deployed last week in Alabama supporting the armed forces and only returned home Sunday, but I wanted to come here to speak on behalf of my family and community. I've lived in Odenton area my entire life from 10 till 34. My wife and I are now raising our 2-year-old son here. And while I've only lived in Two Rivers for about 2 years, I've worked as hard as possible to contribute positively to this community, and many residents here know me personally. I'm an engineer for the United States Coast Guard with FEMA and emergency response training, including responding during the Key Bridge emergency. Because of that background, I view this through the lens of infrastructure and public safety. Today, nearly 2,000 homes rely on essentially one primary route in and out of the community through Conway and Patuxent Road. During rush hour and school pickup times, it can take residents 20 to 30 minutes just to leave the neighborhood and another 20 minutes to make it to a major county road. That same roadway is shared with school traffic, buses, commuters, delivery vehicles, and emergency vehicles. This is no longer just about traffic. It's a public safety issue. We've already experienced delayed emergency responses because of congestion and limited access. In at least one case, a resident has passed away while emergency services struggle to respond quickly enough. These are real consequences. At some point, cumulative impact matters. Roads, schools, emergency services experience all of this growth at once, even if approvals happen incrementally. And once this open space is gone, it's gone forever. I respectfully ask the council to support Bill 1826 and preserve Parcel O as open space.
Thank you, Mr. Shorter. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Quincy Barebe, and I am a resident of Two Rivers. I reside at 2621 Orchard Oreo, Odenton. I'm speaking on Bill 1726 and the Regional 5 plan. I appreciate the time and effort that has gone into creating this plan, but as someone who lives in Two Rivers in this community every day, I want to be honest about the concerns many residents are feeling. Growth in this area has been happening very quickly. We see new development constantly, but the roads and school and infrastructure are struggling to keep up. The traffic has become increasingly frustrating. I have to wait for the traffic to reduce so I can be able to get out for work. Especially school time and work hours, and many residents are worried about how much additional growth this region has realistically become. Many families moved into communities like Two Rivers because of the balance of the neighborhood, green space, and quality of life. We don't want to see that character disappear because development is moving faster than planning and infrastructure movement. I want to ask the county to place a strong focus on environment protections. Residents care deeply about preserving trees, open space, and stormwater management, and protecting the natural beauty of this area. Growth should be responsible and sustainable. Most importantly, I ask the residents to continue to have a real voice in this decision that affect our communities. The people who live here every day should remain part of the conversation as this plan moves forward. While there are still important concerns that most of us continue to be addressed, I believe this plan is a step forward to creating more thoughtful and coordinating future region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barebe. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Beverly Simmons. I live at 2845 Cranefly Lane in Odenton, Maryland, in Two Rivers. I'm coming because I almost got into an accident last week off of Conway. A car turned around, leaving my home, and spun around and almost hit me head on. I almost was that casualty. I was not coming today, but I'm coming today because I'm almost that person. Scared the mess out of me. So I'm almost that person that almost lost their life the other day. So I'm asking, I know that some of you have already made up your mind, but I moved from Prince George's County to Arundel County to retire, to enjoy my husband and I last days. I am a retired disabled veteran after 22 years of honorable service, but I was retired medically. And so driving in this area has picked up so sporadically that cars are just driving. And I'm going to say that 55 in all age, I know that we have to live together now because we approved it, but the traffic is just horrendous. And one last thing, my husband actually worked at Fort Meade. When you're going down Patuxent during the rain, that road closes down. So if something else were to happen, we're not going to have two ways out. And you have almost 2,500 houses in our neighborhood. So I'm just asking for your consideration for someone who may be killed along the road like I was almost a few days ago. Thank you for your time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on bills number 1726 and/or Bill 1826? You may come up at this time.
Good evening. Mark S., Meyer Station Road. To the members of the County Council, I want to express my opposition to the proposed amendments to Bill 1826 for rezoning to the parcel at the corner of Grace Ford Road and Meyer Station Road. As a resident, the rezoning would impact the character, safety, and quality of life in our area. The current zoning was established to provide appropriate land use, protect neighborhoods, and ensure balanced development. I'm specifically concerned about infrastructure, increased traffic congestion, safety risks on already crowded roads, on county and state roads that can't handle it, the strain on our schools. We are at capacity. We don't even have a middle school. We don't have enough fire and EMS personnel. Tuesday, May 15th at 12:17 in Crofton, citizens did CPR for over 18 minutes with no advanced life support. No medic unit was available, not in Bowie and PG, not in Odenton. They eventually found a unit from Crownsville coming from a distance. Ms. Hummer, have you ever done CPR for 18 minutes? It's exhausting. Lives are lost and people are felt hopeless. Our police department is not properly staffed. There's not enough county water, wells are drying up, the sewer is at capacity, and the electricity is sparse. I know the builder money is good, but your constituents who are here tonight are opposed to this. Please listen to the citizens of this county and oppose this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gass. Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all again. My name is James Larock, and I reside at 933 St. Stephen's Church Road in Gambrels, also known as Lot 5 of Brandy Farms. I'm here regarding the proposed amendment, Amendment 15, to rezone a portion of Brandy Farms from its current RLD to R2. I'd be delighted if the subject parcel remained the open hayfield that it is, and while the purchase of the property by concerned and interested citizens that it might remain undeveloped is an option that was noted by Mr. Volke at our last meeting, I don't believe that should be necessary or expected of landowners who only wish to see their homes and property values protected by due consideration being given to existing and established zoning. I'm not opposed to development of land in our county. Rather, I expect the council to responsibly guide and govern orderly development. While R2 zoning allows for considerably higher density development from the surrounding RLD in the rest of Brandy Farms, I'm of the perspective that it is reasonably compatible with the R2 and the R1 directly across St. Stephen's Church Road in the neighborhood. As the 26-year resident of Brandy Farms and also as the chairman of Calvary Temple of Baltimore, the owner of our property, I do not object to Amendment 15. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larock. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. My name is Alan Boxbaum. I live at 4067 Curl Dock Lane. I'm here to support the passage of Bill 1826 and the provision CZR5TRS005A/B to rezone from R2 OS to OS for several reasons. First, I'm a 4-year resident of this area, and in that time I've observed a consistent pattern in Arundel of approving additional development without sufficient consideration of the resulting strain on infrastructure. I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to development. I support development that is thoughtful, well-planned, and reasonably executed. Unfortunately, that has not been the case here. In Two Rivers, the community has already been expanded multiple times at the developer's request. Continued expansion only worsens the existing safety conditions, particularly given the limited points of ingress and egress, leaving residents with only one route in and out, which I don't understand how that even got approved in the first place. and further expansion would compound an already problematic design. Second, along Route 3, outside of Route 2 Rivers, growth continues to accelerate, including 2 warehouse buildings on Route 3 North, where the road narrows to 2 lanes. How are 18-wheelers getting in and out of that? This adds further pressure to an already strained corridor and increases the risk of congestion and safety issues when we need EMS. Taken together, these patterns suggest the county prioritizes developer interests over the well-being of its residents. And it is particularly concerning to see our representative, Ms. Hummer, support this measure. It raises questions about whether, as others have stated, are we supporting constituents' interests or developers' interests? Finally, the developer has a demonstrated track record of offering concessions to secure approval, but falls short of delivering on those commitments. This history underscores the importance of exercising caution before granting additional development rights. For these reasons, I strongly support the rezoning of Parcel O to open space and urge this council to prioritize resident safety, infrastructure capacity, and long-term community planning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Robert Hyman, and I'm here on our property at 1079B, Maryland Route 3. First of all, I want to thank Councilwoman Ledbetter for introducing this amendment. The amendment changes the zoning classification of an existing split zone parcel at 1079 Maryland Route 3 North, Gambrels, from a C2 R5 property to a C4 property. The affected property is a single parcel property totaling approximately 2 acres. It is situated within the intensely developed Maryland Route 3 corridor. The Route 3 is a major arterial, and this portion of the corridor has existed heavily commercial corridor for decades. The C4 zoning classification is intended to provide highway commercial activities and uses. Given this property's current use, its location, and direct frontage along Route 3, it certainly meets the characteristics of C4. The property is home to R.A. Hyman Construction and Restoration, a home building restoration, reconstruction, and remediation contractor. The immediate adjoining property to the south, 1079A, was the subject of a recently adopted amendment reclassifying the property to a C4. Rezoning this parcel will bring into conformance with the property at 1079A parcel and create a sustainable landmass C4 zoned area.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hager.
Good evening. Phil Hager, Hager Land Use. I'm going to provide testimony on 3 amendments. The first is CFT 0603 A and B. That was my client just testifying about that. The activities currently taking place there are consistent with C4 uses. Article 18 recognizes that C4 district as the only district that can support contractor uses. Therefore, we are requesting that amendment. The second is GAM 0608. I want to thank Councilwoman Rodvian for introducing this amendment. It changes the classification of a parcel from C2 to C4. It's located in the 800 block of Maryland Route 3 North, and it's sandwiched between a large self-storage building and a Comcast utility structure. Significant portions of both sides of Route 3 in the area and the median are all zoned C4. C2 is intended for office. There is no hope for office at this particular location now or anytime in the foreseeable future. This property needs to be allowed to reach its highest and best use and needs to be treated equitably. The third is GAM 0607. Councilwoman Hummer, thank you for introducing this amendment. It changes the zoning classification of 3 parcels from C3 to C4. They are located at 1072, 74, and 76 Maryland Route 3 South. It's a relatively minor change, however, it will serve to facilitate a significant expansion in opportunities for the property, economic development for the county, and for residents seeking increased access to new and diverse housing options. I respectfully request your support on all 3 of these amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on bills number 1726 and/or 1826? All right. Seeing no movement, the joint public hearing on bill numbers 1726 and 1826 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill numbers 1726 as amended and 1826 as amended.
Bill number 1726, an ordinance concerning general development plan, Region 5 plan, and bill number 1826, an ordinance concerning comprehensive zoning, Region 5.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
may I just respond to one of the comments, the Maple Road?
Yes.
Comment. I don't know where the lady who spoke on Maple Road is. That amendment was introduced and passed at our last meeting. The property on Maple Road has been split zone for decades. The planning and zoning recommended giving it all residential zoning. The property owner reached out to me as the council member representing that area and was opposed to government changing her property zoning. So the amendment restored it to the split zoning that has been in place for decades. We do not, this is the last meeting for amendments, so that will stay in place for.
Yeah. It's not a back and forth.
I just wanted to respond.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. There will be some back and forth between the bills in order to keep new amendments about the same properties together. So you may hear us going 1726, 1826, and back and forth. There are 4 amendments to bill number 1726 and 6 amendments to bill number 1826. Madam Secretary, for the upcoming amendments requiring signs for at least 10 days before this legislative session, were signs posted on the subject property and was notice of the proposed change of zoning posted to the County Council website?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 9 to bill number 1726.
Amendment number 9 to bill number 1726. This amendment changes the planned land use for the property known as parcel 105 on tax map 42, located at bulk parcel OR and OS 6R off of Graysford Road, Odenton, from conservation to low density residential.
I am going to take a moment of personal privilege, and I ask everyone here to listen carefully to my reasons for this amendment. I have not come to this decision lightly. I have lost sleep over the past couple of months wrestling with what is the right decision. And unfortunately, sometimes the right decision is not the one we would like to make. I'm especially saddened tonight because I know my introduction of this amendment is very disappointing to many members of a community I care for. I am very aware of and share all of the concerns that the Two Rivers and the Forks of the Patuxent have regarding further development, including emergency ingress and egress, traffic congestion, and school capacity. Excuse me, I got out of order. Sorry about that. The amendment I am introducing does not approve or green light any additional development to the Two Rivers community, nor does it reflect any endorsement on my part of the proposed expansion. It does, however, reflect the appropriate process that must be followed. This appropriate process has been reiterated repeatedly over the past several years by the county executive and the Office of Planning and Zoning, and altering that process is not supported by the administration's own words and actions throughout the 3-year comprehensive zoning process. I have been honest and consistent in stating that as a county council member, I cannot approve or deny any individual development, no matter how much I may favor or oppose any particular project. I have consistently pledged that I will closely monitor any proposed changes in the area to ensure that there are no shortcuts in the process and all steps are followed to the letter. Our planning and zoning process is designed to remove political or individual influence. It involves a detailed and complex code that all development applications must follow to be approved. If they do not meet the regulations and adequate public facility requirements, their development will not be approved. This process is the same whether it is for an individual homeowner wanting to add an addition on their house, a business wanting to expand its uses, or a home builder wanting to build a subdivision. Once a decade, Anne Arundel County undergoes a comprehensive zoning process where all the properties in the county are reviewed to determine if zoning and/or land use changes are warranted. We are now at the end of that process that began back in 2021 with the formation of the first stakeholder advisory committees, and even before that with the creation of the General Development Plan. This SAC, the Planning Advisory Board, and the Office of Planning and Zoning have been meeting and providing public forums for the 9 region plans since 2023. Tens of thousands of properties were reviewed, and thousands of consistency changes were recommended by OPZ. The Council has considered, amended, and voted on 8 of the region plans so far, with this Region 5 being the last one. Throughout this process of thousands of zoning and land use decisions, I have not been able to identify a single property that was downzoned, meaning the approved zoning would allow a lower use of the property than the existing zoning against the wishes of a property owner. In fact, multiple properties that were downzoned as consistency changes in the original plan were returned to their original zoning by amendments by the council because downzoning of an owner's property against their wishes takes away the property owner's rights. The Parcel O rezoning proposed by County Executive Pittman downzones the property from R2 residential to open space to OS open space against the wishes of the landowner. As I said, out of tens of thousands of properties and changes in a comprehensive process spanning more than 3 years, this is the only property I have been able to identify that was downzoned in such a manner. Every other downzoning was a consistency change by planning and zoning, and all were reversed upon owner request. This downzoning was an override of the recommendations of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and the Planning Advisory Board, an overturning of the owner's request for the property to remain as zoned, and reversal of the Office of Planning and Zoning's own recommendations during the meetings of the stakeholder groups. The Office of Planning and Zoning also held a standard of not recommending any zoning changes to properties in a planned unit PUD, planned unit development, due to the special exception and detailed agreements involved in each PUD. In fact, the council received a letter from the Region 5 Stakeholder Advisory Committee stating that the committee recommended keeping the existing OS and R2 zoning for Parcel O due to the county's policies on planned unit developments. The proposed Parcel O rezoning is the only PUD out of the thousands of properties reviewed that has a recommendation for a zoning change. No matter how I may feel about the potential development of Parcel O, I cannot support one property being treated differently than every other property in the county and against the county's own stated policies. Just as I do not have the authority to approve or deny an individual development, neither should the county executive or the county council have the authority to make a decision contrary to every standard and guideline the county has followed throughout this process. The R2 zoning for the Two Rivers property, including Parcel O, was approved during the comprehensive zoning process in 2004. In 2006, the property was approved for a special exception for a planned unit development that provided a comprehensive plan for the development that included smaller setbacks and lot sizes to reduce sprawl and increase open space. It also approved the development for a maximum of 2,060 units. As per a memo I have from James Kitchen that was sent to me at the direction of County Executive Pittman on July 23, 2024, changing either the total number of units or the use of individual parcels would require a special exception to be applied for and approved. This process involves a public hearing that members of the community can participate in. The hearing is conducted by the administrative hearing officer independently of either the county executive or the county council. The applicant would have to demonstrate that they meet the general exception requirements as well as the specific requirements for the PUD. Both are outlined in county code. This memo from Mr. Kitchen and Mr. Pittman clearly lays out the process of making any changes to the special exception and the PUD. There is no mention of changing underlying zoning to stop further development. This memo was written and sent after the council was well into the comprehensive rezoning process. By that time, we had finalized 3 of the 9 regions, and this stated pathway was the accepted standard for development applications. Let me stress that the special exception and PUD requirements are very detailed, and achieving approval for additional development above what has already been granted is a very high hurdle. The Kitchen memo goes on to say, if a new special exception were to be granted by the administrative hearing officer, the applicant would be required to retest for adequate public facilities. This includes conducting a new traffic study and ensuring adequate road capacity, complying with the updated ordinance related to school capacity, retesting the adequate storm drain facilities. All other ordinance, such as the updated Forest Conservation Act and the most recent stormwater runoff regulations, would also apply to any new development proposal. I regret that Two Rivers area residents have been misled that this zoning change is the appropriate path to stop the development of Parcel O. I believe this change is an overstep by the county executive. We have a federal executive who is changing the accepted norms and procedures for how government functions based on his own personal feelings and agenda, and the legislative branch is not providing the checks and balances they are tasked with. We cannot allow the same erosion of our own nonpartisan procedures and approvals based on an individual's personal positions, no matter how much we may agree with those positions. I have been involved in the Two Rivers area going back to my days on the Board of Education when we approved the construction of Two Rivers Elementary. I have met repeatedly with amazingly informed and dedicated community members at Wegmans to strategize our opposition to the proposed landfill. I have tromped through people's property to assess suspected stormwater runoff damage. I worked to include in the budget a study for a possible second entrance, and I've worshiped at St. John AME Zion Church. I often tell people that Two Rivers is my most engaged community in District 4, and I know whenever I hear from them, they are informed and offering solutions. Please know I take no pleasure from presenting this amendment. I have read every piece of testimony, reviewed documents going back to the formation of Two Rivers, listened to hours of meetings of the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and the Planning Advisory Board, and consulted with multiple attorneys in an attempt to support this zoning change. But I cannot in good conscience do something that threatens the integrity of the entire comprehensive zoning process and could set a precedent to undermine property owner rights in the future. Supporting this change against the established process of the multi-year comprehensive zoning project would open the county to expensive legal action. There is an established path forward that should be followed, both for this property owner and all current and future property owners who wish to live, work, and invest in Anne Arundel County. I want to disclose that I reviewed my campaign contribution reports, and I have returned a total of $2,500 that I have received from the Two Rivers developers to remove any presumption that this decision was influenced by their donations. I know this amendment is not what many of you wanted, and if ever a vote was against my own self-interest, this is it. I will continue to encourage residents to advocate through the current process when and if the Two Rivers developers apply for a special exception. With that, I move the amendment to return the property known as Parcel O to R2 open space zoning. Do I have a second?
Second.
So, is there any discussion? Mr. Volke.
Thank you. So I'm looking at the chart that was the Region 5 final recommended CZ changes, and I'm on page 10 of 12, looking at item CZ R5 TRS 0005. It looks like the initial zoning, though I don't see any RA, is split between OS, RA, and R2. But what I can see on the zoning map looks like it's largely OS and R2. And it looks like the request was to go to R2 or R5 in total. SAC, who's the stakeholder group who was appointed for the area, recommended that it be a split OS R2. And then PAB recommended that it be a split OS R2. Am I following along so far correctly? Okay. And then at the point that I think is inappropriate, and I've said this before, But where the county executive then takes it before it gets introduced, sort of puts his fingerprints on it, that was where the final recommended zoning came down as OS. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And I guess I'm still not clear where in state law that is allowed to happen, but in any event, it happened. So here we are. And so the county executive has recommended that the entire property go to open space, despite the fact that the property is currently split zoned OS RA R2. And from what I can see on the land use viewer, it's primarily R2 zoned with a very little bit of open space at the back of it. Is that fair? You all know my position on this because I've been pretty consistent in my district when you tried to downzone properties, and I've said no, and I've been consistent about that. So the struggle that I have is if a property owner didn't ask to have economic value removed from their property, what gives us the right to go in and take that away from them? Because at a certain point, we do have to protect the rights of the minority. That is part of what government is about, in addition to doing what people want, is protecting the rights of the other people who are also in the mix, which in this case is the property owner. So to the extent that we have that right, where does that come from? I mean, I'm deeply concerned this is a taking if we were to leave this as is, and that this is going to get challenged in court, especially given that SAC and PAB both recommended that it be a split OSR2 zoning. Does Office of Law have any position on that?
Sure, Cali County Supervising County Attorney.
Yeah.
Of course, the Office of Law looked at this when the recommendation was made to present this as open space zoning. And we have looked at the case law and looked at everything and found that it could be legally supportable. We don't think that they would have a claim as a taking. And of course, anyone can bring a claim against the county, but we don't think that that claim would be successful. Given the history of this property, you've heard a lot of that tonight, that there was a special exception that approved only a certain number of dwelling units, approved this particular parcel as originally a golf course and then now an ag park or a conservation park that can't be changed without going back and changing that special exception. So they have no vested rights to use this property residentially or anything of that nature, nothing that would establish a takings claim against the county.
Okay, all right, and not to knock on the Office of Law, but you all also thought you were going to beat the fossil fuel companies and you thought you were going to beat the pharmaceutical companies, and both of those have been losses too. So, I disputed those when those claims, those cases were filed. So, and I've talked with Mr. Swain about this, so this isn't something that I haven't said to him. I'm not quite as confident as you all are in your ability to beat back this claim. So with that said, I have just a philosophical issue with this. I've shared this. This has been consistent when we did Region 4 and other regions that I've been involved with. I have a problem when you're taking economic value away from a property owner without them asking for it. So I have a concern with that. That's a challenge for me in terms of being able to support the county executive on this.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can certainly appreciate the residents in the room speaking tonight. I have faced development in my own district, brought forward a bill to reduce the amount of development in my district by several units, and the county executive denied, strongly opposed my legislation to reduce. So I just find it completely different of opinion of, or a different action that he's taking here. Makes you just scratch your head and go, what's different with this area than other areas where citizens reach out and ask to slow something down? But a few minutes ago, I commented on someone in my district who was opposed to an amendment that I introduced and passed at the last council session. And that was because Planning and Zoning had recommended changing the zoning against the property owner's wishes. And I think it's a slippery slope when we start saying that it's okay for government to go in and take away property owners' rights, especially when there is acting litigation that this council cannot be involved in. I have read through what has been provided and I can't even comment on it tonight. This council is not part of the litigation and cannot be part of the special exception process. So tonight, for me, it is truly about property owners' rights. And when we were doing Region 4, which is the larger part of District 5, the county stated multiple times that planning and zoning's position is not to get involved in property owner disputes and cases, and does not recognize property agreements between private property owners. So this is a bit of a quagmire to me, why this is being supported so strongly by the administration, because it does go against everything that has happened historically through the comprehensive zoning process.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think one of the, possibly, my colleagues may or may not agree with me, but I think one of the hardest parts of this job as an elected council person is recognizing that there are going to be moments on the dais where you have to separate, I have to separate Shannon, the individual, from Shannon, the council person. And this is definitely one of those moments for me. But just because it's hard doesn't mean that I can give myself a pass for standing up for it and being true to the principles that I hold dear. And a couple of those principles are government shouldn't be in a position to take economic value from property owners that is already in their hands. I believe in separation of powers. Processes that are codified should be followed. And this is the only property, Ms. Hummer alluded to it, I searched as well. This is the only one that I could find that of all the regions that we've done, this is the 9th region, of all this comprehensive rezoning legislation of this term, that a recommendation came in to downzone a piece of property against a property owner's wishes. And that sidesteps the codified process. And it does not, it's a slippery slope that I am personally just not willing to go down tonight. And so I will be supporting this amendment.
Mr. Smith.
The administration have actually, what's your official response to this amendment?
So the administration's opposed to this amendment. We would urge the council to reject it and pass the bill as this provision was introduced. As introduced, the planned land use for this parcel is conservation and zoned open space. Both the planned unit development and the contract with the community association provide that the land will remain open space. Per the approved Two Rivers PUD, special exception parcel O is to be used for development of either a golf course or agricultural and environmental park. The administration believes that the zoning should be consistent with what the county, the community, and the landowner previously agreed to as a condition for the land to be developed, for the adjacent land to be developed, which is as open space.
And do you have any sort of comments in reference to the historical nature that Ms. Hummer had spoke about previously? Is that factual, or as far as previous properties not being downzoned in the last comp rezoning that we've completed?
I believe that's largely accurate. Yeah, I can't remember every parcel, but I believe so, yes.
And so why in this instance the administration chose to make this stance?
I believe because of the agreements with the surrounding landowners, the surrounding homeowners, the residents of Two Rivers, and the forks of the Patuxent.
Thank you.
I do want to add that, as Ms. Fiedler alluded to, there are private agreements between the developer and surrounding landowners. I have multiple emails over the past 4 years from the Office of Law stating that the county does not become involved in private agreements between the landowners, and that is currently in litigation. So between the private entities. So that the Office of Law has been very clear that that's not something that would, something that the county would weigh in on when it came to the private agreements. Mr. Volke.
Thank you. Wasn't one of the first things that one of the people who came up and testified about talking about covenants that are running with the land regarding this property? Did y'all hear that too? Yes. Do we agree there are covenants on the property?
That run with the land,
okay.
Yes.
And these covenants are dictating legally what's allowed to be done on this property, right? Irrespective of zoning. I'm not asking the audience, I'm asking the panel, so thanks. Appreciate you. You can wave your hands, but I need the people at the table to respond to me. So, do you all agree with me there are covenants that run with the land that are limiting what can be done with this property, regardless of how this property is zoned? Are we all on board with that?
Yes.
I need the table to say it, you know. And somebody up here from the administration to answer that, if they can, please.
Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. It was, Ms. Hummer stated in the many things that she spoke about that the Office of Planning and Zoning has not recommended changing zoning in planned unit developments. And we've been consistent with that, which meant that that was the decision we made without a tremendous amount of analysis. So have I read every covenant for Two Rivers? I have not.
But again, so then.
But there are covenants.
I got you, but then what gets us to this moment? That's my question. Like, if that's been your policy, what gets us to this moment?
It was a decision of the administration that this is the zoning that should be in place on this property.
Okay, so was it the professional planning staff or was it the county executive? Did he sit down with Mr. Kitchen and they talked about it and then they came up with this? Like, what was the plan?
I couldn't speak to the plan, but I know that the administration believes that this is the zoning that should be applied to this parcel.
And who in the administration takes responsibility for that? Is that something that Ms. Dempsey takes responsibility for? Is it something that Mr. Swain takes responsibility for? Is it something the county exec stands behind?
It is something the county exec stands behind with the input of the numerous professionals in the executive office and the departments.
All right, but his own people in planning and zoning up to this moment have taken a consistent position to say we're not going to get involved in PUDs. Yeah?
That is correct.
Okay, and this is the one exception where we've said we're jumping in. We're going to wade into this one. In an election year, a month before the election, we're going to jump into that one, right? Okay, just want to make sure I understand.
Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if my question is one that you can answer, but my understanding is that in order to go forward with the existing zoning, there would still have to be a special exception granted, correct? To go forward with development on this property, there would have to be, not to mention all of the other, APF requirements. Is that accurate?
It is accurate, Ms. Rodvian.
Okay, so I guess my question is, and maybe this is a little bit of speculation, but when granting a special exception, would there ever be a circumstance when the hearing officer would grant a special exception that contradicts a private agreement?
I can't answer that question.
Office of Law.
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney. I can't predict what the hearing officer would do. He may or may not take that into account. And to be clear, the position of the Office of Law has been indicated tonight. The county does not enforce those private agreements. Those are private agreements amongst the individuals that entered into them. The county is not a party to those. And our advice had nothing to do with the private agreements.
So does that mean it could not be a consideration? I mean, obviously you don't know what the administrative hearing officer would decide to do, but does that mean a private covenant could not even be considered?
No, I think the hearing officer could look at that. I'm sure it would be introduced to him and probably be something that he would consider.
Okay. I'm trying to just parse out whether, it's in my mind, it appears clear that there were promises made and promises broken. But the question that really is before the council is whether this is the right path to correct those broken promises. And that, the litigation is attempting to accomplish that. Is that a fair summary? I realize that's a very short way of summarizing something that's incredibly complicated, but.
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney, I honestly don't know anything about the private litigation, so I can't speak to that. Our opinion was only based on the fact that the special exception limited the use of this parcel to open space, either as an ag or conservation park area, and that was what we were basing our opinion on.
Okay. That's how ordinarily, just as a matter of law, ordinarily, when there's dispute in a covenant, it's not handled by a legislative body, it's handled in a court. And that sounds like what's going forward. Again, without knowing the details of the litigation, which it sounds like, I don't know.
as a matter of principle, I attempt to wall myself off. We get notifications of what's going on with the administrative hearing officer and Board of Appeals, and I literally say, this is not my lane, and I'm just file those away. And so, there is an attempt to say, I'm intentionally not getting involved because political and, a legal process need to be separate. A legislative, and by nature political, because we're all elected, as opposed to a judicial process, need to be separated. So I hear I think we all hear the community very, very clearly and loudly. I think the biggest question here is whether it is even appropriate for us to resolve an issue through the comprehensive rezoning process, and whether that alone could set a dangerous precedent if we become, the arbiter of private agreements rather than the courts. That's not what a legislative body is intended to do. And so that creates a problem and could create a dangerous precedent. I think there's lots of reason if I were the administrative hearing officer, I would not. I think the community has raised very legitimate safety concerns. I'm a little puzzled how as the community currently exists, how the entrance and exit from the community even meets adequate public facilities, because that doesn't sound, it doesn't sound adequate, to put it very simply. And if I believe I heard correctly, we were talking about originally it was allowed for 2060, and that number has already been exceeded.
No,
it has not.
It
is not.
But the full amount are under construction, the remaining ones, that it will be 2060.
Okay. Oh, okay. So combined with what has already been built and what will be built, we get to 2060.
Yes. Not with what the expansion. The approved number is 2060, and that is currently reached or in progress to have that.
Okay.
If they would want to build more and expand onto this parcel, they would have to.
They would be going above
that
that 2060.
They would have to go to the administrative hearing officer to apply for, changes to the special exception.
Okay. I know this, I just hope the community understands why this is a difficult decision for the council, because I do think
it's kind of, so.
I will leave it at that then. I've tried to explain that the legislature cannot act as a judicial body.
Mr. Smith.
For the administration, APF standards for that community does the county have any plans for expanding Conway or Patuxent Road coming into that area? I guess my question is, do you think Conway and Patuxent is adequate enough to service the current community that's over there? I got you.
Yeah.
Mark Wildonger, Office of Planning and Zoning. So to address the first part of your question of whether there are plans to widen Conway, there is a capital project to improve that road, and there is also a study that was part of that capital project to look at a second entrance or exit farther south of the community to connect with the Maryland 3 corridor.
And that project is funded in this capital budget?
I can't confirm that.
It is. It's underway. Okay. It's still in acquisition and design phase.
Which part? The Conway or the Patuxent?
The Conway. The Conway Road.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment Number 9 to Bill Number 1726.
Ms. Pickard is absent. Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
5 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 1 absent. Amendment number 9 to Bill number 1726 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read Amendment number 12 to Bill number 1826.
Amendment number 12 to Bill number 1826. This amendment changes the zoning of a portion of the property known as Parcel 105 on Tax Map 42 located at Bulk Parcel OR and OS 6R off of Grace Ford Road, Odenton, from OS Open Space to R2 Residential.
This is the companion piece to the previous amendment. Mr. Hunt?
Same comments as before.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Volke?
Just briefly, this says it changes it, but what it really does is reverts it back to what is existing, correct? Okay, so to be clear, this just undoes a downzoning and leaves the property zoned as is. I just want to make it clear because I don't think everybody always understands how these amendments work. This isn't changing zoning on the property.
Mark Williger, Office of Planning and Zoning. So also to clarify, because I know it
Sure,
is
go ahead.
on the
Please.
table,
Yep.
split OS, RA, and R2. That RA has since been corrected. We had gone back to the small area plan
Okay.
and identified that was an error. So
Okay.
the
I
current
didn't see
zoning.
the RA. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the current zoning is OS and R2, and
Gotcha.
you're correct that this zoning, or the amendment does take it back to the adopted zoning.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment number 12 to Bill number 1826.
Ms. Pickard is absent. Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
5 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 1 absent. Amendment number 12 to Bill number 1826 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read Amendment number 13 to Bill number 1826.
Amendment number 13 to Bill number 1826. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as Parcel 6, part of lots 1, 2, and 3 on Tax Map 37, located at No Number Crane Highway, North Lane, Gambrels, from C2 Commercial Office to C4 Highway Commercial.
Ms. Rodvian, this is your amendment.
Thank you. So you heard a couple folks testify about this particular parcel. It's basically looking for, so no change in land use, it's already commercial, so this would just be the change in the zoning from C2 to C4. And at this point in the overall makeup of Crane Highway or Route 3, I don't think it would be appropriate to have office space. This really is more of a highway use at this point. So I move the amendment and ask for my colleagues' support.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Hunt, anything,
I'm
comment by the
going to turn
administration?
it over to the Office of Planning and Zoning.
So again, the subject property is 2.2 acres. It's located along the east side of Maryland 3 North Lane. We had heard before that it is between the extra space storage and Comcast facilities, currently zoned C2, and it is undeveloped. So again, this amendment would take the zoning from C2 to C4. For background, the property owner submitted a zoning application during the initial Region 5 comprehensive zoning application period, requesting C4 zoning. The Region 5 Stakeholder Advisory Committee recommended C2 zoning, and the Planning Advisory Board recommended C4. OPZ's recommendation is to retain the adopted C2 zoning because a change to C4 zoning would promote more intensive commercial uses along the Maryland 3 corridor that OPZ and the public note does not have adequate infrastructure to support existing zoning and corresponding uses. OPZ prefers that the corridor study be done first before upzonings occur. OPZ does not support the amendment.
Mr. Volke.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do the amendment soon, tonight, that's right down the road at the intersection at St. Stephen's Church Road, where the RLD is going to go to R2. These are the parcels that are out front that are on Route 3. Is that right? Okay, thanks. And the property that's directly next to this on sort of the southwest portion is currently C2. That's developed, right?
To the south is developed, yes.
Okay, and so this or the property next to it could be considered arguably the buffer between the C2, C4 zone, right?
Correct.
Okay, and across the street's C4, on the other side of the street's C4, all around this is C4. It's just, this is kind of the last bastion of C2 before you get to the C2 zoning and then goes down to C1. That's what it looks like. But if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
So, correct, to the north is C4, to the
Right.
south is C2 for about 3 properties, and then across on the south side of St. Stephen's Church is C1.
C1, right, okay, all right. Okay, and that's all I need to thank you.
Ms. Rabian?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 13 to bill number 1826.
Ms. Pickard is absent. Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Amendment number 13 to bill number 1826 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 10 to bill number 1726.
Amendment number 10 to bill number 1726. This amendment changes the planned land use for the property known as Parcel 60, Lot 10, on Tax Map 36, located at 2664 Evergreen Road, Odenton, from rural to low-density residential.
So this is my amendment. If you look at the map, this is a beautiful triangular shaped property. A couple of weeks ago, we changed the zoning around this to for the asphalt mine that's nearby for their expansion. The family that owns this property has lived there for many, many decades, and they are great neighbors and are used to the mine, and they would like to change the zoning so that other family members can build on that property surrounded by the mine. And they're okay with it, and they want to have that as their family compound. So I ask everyone's support. I move to adopt. Okay. Administration?
I'm going to turn it over to the Office of Planning and Zoning.
So the property owner submitted a zoning application requesting R1 during the initial Region 5 comprehensive zoning application period. The Region 5 Stakeholder Advisory Committee and the Planning Advisory Board recommended that the parcel retain the adopted RLD zoning. OPZ's recommendation was to retain the adopted RLD zoning because it is consistent with the adopted Plan 2040 rural plan land use and is compatible with the surrounding area. A change to R1 zoning is not consistent with the adopted Plan 2040 plan land use and the rural and agricultural development policy area, as this is not an area envisioned for increased residential density. OPZ does not object to this amendment, but notes concerns that a change to R1 could be considered spot zoning.
All right. Any further discussion? Mr. Volke?
It's 3 houses at best, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there one on there already?
There is one on there
So
already.
it's 2 houses.
It's 2 houses.
Copy.
Yes. So, all right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 10 to bill number 1726.
Ms. Pickard is still absent. Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
We've seen a lot of land shapes in the regions that we've done. This is literally a perfect
It's
pie
a perfect
slice.
triangle.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian? Thank you.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Amendment number 10 to bill number 1726 has been adopted.
So you are good, the Manuel family. So almost. We have to do the companion bill. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 14 to bill number 1826.
Amendment number 14 to bill number 1826. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as Parcel 60, Lot 10 on Tax Map 36, located at 2664 Evergreen Road, Odenton, from RLD residential low density to R1 residential.
As I said, this is the companion amendment to the previous one. Move to adopt. Do I have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Administration?
Same comments as before.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 14 to bill number 1826.
Did Ms. Rodvian have a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm ready to vote. I
Okay,
really
very
just
good.
wanted to say it's nice to be able to do something that actually is going to make people leave here happy.
That's right. That's right. We're glad to have helped. So,
All right.
Please, there we go.
Ms. Pickard is still absent. Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Amendment number 14 to Bill number 1826 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read Amendment number 11 to Bill number 1726.
Amendment number 11 to Bill number 1726. This amendment changes the planned land use for the property known as Parcel 71, Lot 2, on Tax Map 37, located at no number Brandy Farms Lane, Gambrels, from rural to low-density residential.
So this is, we had a similar amendment to this a couple of weeks ago that to change this property to R5. That amendment did not pass. The owners have resubmitted to R2, which is more in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. And we did hear testimony tonight from some of the surrounding neighbors that were more comfortable with the R2 zoning. So I ask for your support to change this property to R2. May I have a motion? Oh, I'll move to adopt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Administration?
I'm going to turn it over to the Office of Planning and Zoning.
Office Planning and Zoning finds that this request is more aligned with the character of the community, but OPZ continues to prefer that the Maryland 3 corridor study be done first before upzonings occur. OPZ does not support the amendment.
Any questions or comments on this one? Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was one of the original, or one of the nay votes when it was to R5. I think it wasn't our last meeting, it was the meeting before that. And that was in large part due to the community feedback that came out, and obviously being aware of kind of concerns within my district about increased residential density. However, also recognizing that things don't always stay the same forever, and I have a soft spot when compromise is reached. So I love the fact that we have found a middle ground, it sounds like, that both the surrounding community can live with and the property owners are satisfied with. So I will be supporting this tonight.
Okay. Mr. Volke.
I'm just going to cheer for what she said.
There you go. You know, you didn't have to say that. You could have just done your hands. Okay, thank you. All right.
Those are spirit hands, by the way.
It's a spirit hands, that's right. Jazz hands, spirit hands. Is it what, jazz hands are to the side and spirit hands are up?
They're all jazz hands in my mind. But I think we have some folks with really strong arms after tonight.
So, Ms. Rodvian. Oh, okay. All right. Any other comments from administration? Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 11 to bill number 1726.
Ms. Pickard is still absent. Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Amendment number 11 to Bill number 1726 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 15 to bill number 1826.
Amendment number 15 to Bill number 1826. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as Parcel 71, Lot 2 on Tax Map 37, located at no number Brandy Farms Lane, Gambrels, from RLD Residential Low Density to R2 Residential.
Okay, this is my amendment. This is the companion amendment to the previous one we just passed. I ask for your support. I move to adopt. Do I? Okay. Any discussion?
I
Ms.
just wanted
Rabia?
to note, it looks like on the map, maybe it's, on the map page itself, the one with the red hatches, it says amendment number 16. Oh, it would because I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay.
Okay, there you go. All right. Any
Thank you.
further discussion? Administration?
Same comments as before.
Okay. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 15 to bill number 1826.
Excuse me, Ms. Pickard is still absent. Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms.
Oh.
Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Ms. Hummer. And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Amendment number 15 to Bill number 1826 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 16 to bill number 1826.
Amendment number 16 to Bill number 1826. This amendment changes the zoning of the properties known as Parcel 76, lots/units 1, 2, and 3 on Tax Map 36 located at 1074, 1072, and 1076 Maryland Route 3 South Lane, Gambrels, from MXD and Neighborhood Mixed Use to C3 Commercial Office to C4 Highway Commercial.
This is my amendment. This is a property on Route 3, which currently has Slim Chickens and a housing building for elderly of moderate means. And there is our plans to build another affordable housing building for family use, multifamily, changing this zoning. And welcome, Ms. Pickard. Ms. Pickard was returning from her daughter's college graduation and has been on the road all day to get back here and fighting the New Jersey Turnpike. So welcome back. And congratulations to your daughter. So, but this is just to change this property to making the three parcels are all connected. They share a common driveway that they come in. By changing this to C4, it allows for a little bit more flexibility in creating the additional housing unit. And so I ask for your support and move to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Administration?
The property owner did not submit a zoning application prior to this county council process. After some meetings with the applicant, OPZ is unsure as to why the applicant is requesting this amendment, given the fact that 2 of the 3 properties have been built and the third has approvals, all of which have been approved and built legally with C3 zoning. In fact, the upzoning to C4 would make one of the properties, the housing for elderly and moderate means use, non-conforming. In addition, we don't anticipate these 3 properties being redeveloped in the short term. Again, this is another situation where this amendment could lead to future upzonings as property owners could claim a change of character through the administrative zoning process, a process independent of this comprehensive zoning process and council process. OPZ's recommendation is to retain the adopted C3 zoning because a change to C4 isn't warranted. OPZ does not support the amendment.
I want to add that when we had discussions about this property, it was brought up that the change to C4 could make the elderly of moderate means building non-conforming, but that also identified that that is probably something in our code that needs to be fixed and was included on the list to be considered when we review Article 18 in the fall, because that's kind of a little loophole, a little miss that we found there. So is there any further discussion? So, Madam Secretary, please call. Oh,
Actually,
yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. Could
No,
I
go
ask one more question? If that change that she just mentioned that would presumably come in the Article 18 bill, if that had already passed, would that change how you feel about this amendment?
Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. I can't confirm whether or not that change is actually in the bill. I mean, it could be amended in by this body if the bill is introduced.
All right. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 16 to bill number 1826.
Ms. Pickard, are you ready, or would you like me to come back to you?
You can come back to me.
Okay, great. Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
And Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 16 to bill number 1826 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 12 to bill number 1726.
Amendment number 12 to bill number 1726. This amendment changes the planned land use for a portion of the property known as parcel 275 on tax map 36, located at 1079 Maryland Route 3 North Lane, Gambrels, from low medium density residential to commercial.
Ms. Ledbetter, this is your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I personally find it a little bit easier to understand what we're doing if you all want to look at amendment number 17, the map on the back of that one. I think that map's a little bit easier to visualize, if that's helpful. But this property, when you're driving north on Route 3, it's a direct right-hand turn onto their driveway. You heard from the property owner tonight. He was here. This is an existing business that does remediation and restoration work. They work on individual homes, they work on businesses after damage has occurred. The property is currently split zoned. The front part, which is closer to Route 3, is currently C2. The back half is R5. By upzoning this to C4, this will allow their business to expand because it will allow them to have the outdoor storage space that really will suit, enable them to better meet their clients' needs and to grow their business. For your recollection, just to remind everyone, previous council meetings, we have changed the property that is directly behind it by amendment to C4. That's, when I say behind it, I mean further away from Route 3. And then north of Route 3, the R5 parcel, we amended that to C2 at our last meeting. So this is a parcel that is surrounded by commercial properties at this point. Motion to adopt.
Any discussion? Administration?
Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. So the property owner had not submitted a zoning application prior to this county council phase, and OPZ's recommendation prior to the application was to retain the adopted C2 and R5, given that an office is currently operating on the C2 portion of the split zone property. So for context, and as was already mentioned, council adopted C4 on the adjacent parcel during a reconsideration late in the meeting on April 20th. And then this application was received on April 24th. So we note how one successful zoning amendment can spawn other similar requests, which is why OPZ has been conservative with its zoning recommendations, as well as a recommendation to study the Maryland 3 corridor prior to significant upzonings. Given the vast amount of public outreach during the region plan process, OPZ continually heard the need to hold the line on upzonings along Maryland 3 because the infrastructure along the corridor is inadequate to support existing zoning and uses. OPZ did not support the amendment to C4 for the adjacent property at 1079A and does not support this amendment either. Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 12 to bill number 1726.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter? Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 12 to bill number 1726 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 17 to bill number 1826.
Amendment number 17 to bill number 1826. This amendment changes the zoning of the property known as parcel 275 on tax map 36, located at 1079 Maryland Route 3 North Lane, Gambrills, from R5 residential and C2 commercial office to C4 highway commercial.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the companion amendment to the previous one we just passed. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Administration?
Same comments as before.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 17 to bill number 1826.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volke?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 17 to bill number 1826 has been adopted.
Bill number 1726 as amended and bill number 1826 as amended will be heard again on June 1st, 2026. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 2926 as amended.
Bill number 2926, an ordinance concerning zoning, conditional use requirements, licensed dispensaries of cannabis.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you. We've discussed this multiple times, and so I am happy to just move forward and hear the public testimony. I do want to note a couple things, though, because really the heart of this bill, I'm going to take back what I said. I wasn't going to say anything. Now I am. The heart of this bill is really about distance, right, and how we measure distances for things in the county code. And so I think that at times this discussion seems to meander into territory that's not really productive, which is conversations about, you know, cannabis and should it be legal or should it be used in certain places, et cetera. And at the end of the day, that's been decided, right? The voters have spoken on that. So this focuses on distance and measuring distances, and specifically measuring distances from places that state law already says are places that we refer to as sort of sensitive places, right? Houses of worship, childcare centers, schools, et cetera. And so that's what this bill is about. And I think that when we get into this larger discussion of is cannabis use good or bad, everyone is missing the point. And the point is not about that. It's about distances. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of things and how we measure distances in the code. In 18-10102, adult movie theaters are to be located 1,000 feet from the property line of a residential district, dwelling, school, library, park, playground, childcare center, religious facility, video lottery facility, or other bookstore. And I want to be clear, in every one of these that I'm saying, and there's going to be some others that are not sort of this type of use, it's not about that. It's about measuring the distance again. So this is a lot line measurement. In section 1810-105, animal hospitals and veterinary clinics with non-medical overnight stays must be 30 feet from residentially zoned property. In 1810-107, assisted living facilities present differing distance requirements, all of which are measured from lot lines. In 1810-109, automobile gas stations locate their facilities on the basis of distance requirements from lot lines. 1810-112, bingo commercial locations must be 100 feet from a residential lot line. 1810-113, bird sanctuary facilities must be 100 feet from a residential lot line. Funeral establishments in 18-10-136 must be 25 feet from a residentially zoned lot line. 1810-144, commercial kennels must be at least 100 feet from a residentially zoned lot line. 1810-148, nursing homes are required for any potential nuisances such as laundry operations or a power plant to be at least 200 feet from a residentially zoned property, and access must be at least 40 feet from a lot line. 1810-151 calls for recreational piers to be at least 15 feet from lot lines extended. 1810-152, processing facilities for clay, sand, gravel, and similar materials must be located at least 1,000 feet from residentially zoned lot line. 1810-153, produce markets must be at least 25 feet from all lot lines. 1810-154, racetracks for horses requires a number of distance restrictions, all noted from lot lines. 1810-157, liquefied petroleum storage requires storage tanks to be set back at least 25 feet from all lot lines. In Arundel County Code 1810-159, school bus facilities must be set back 100 feet from residentially zoned property. 1810-160 and 161 limit public and private schools from being located 100 feet of a lot line in an RA district or within 40 feet from a lot line of other residential districts. So that is how we treat lot lines in lots of other types of uses in the county code. So I just say that for the benefit of all my colleagues, lest we think that this is some unusual way to measure distance by looking at lot lines. Now we'll expand to other Maryland counties. Other Maryland counties are not uniform, and they have chosen differing distance requirements. Montgomery County has a 100-foot setback from residential property measured lot line to lot line, property line to property line. That's ZTA 25-07. Prince George's County, CB 013-2024 adopted distance requirements measuring from property boundaries codified in Use Regulations Part 27-5, 25/5102, subsection E, subsection 9, subsection C, subsection I. Baltimore County, Section 4D-102C explicitly adopts a property line to property line measurement. Baltimore City on cannabis dispensaries is lacking, but the mayor approved bill number 25-0114 restricting, quote, smoke shops, which explicitly calculates distance requirements from the nearest property line to nearest property line with respect to sensitive areas such as parks, schools, recreation areas. Howard County hasn't adopted explicit zoning regulations and subject to the state requirements. However, Howard County does regularly use property and lot lines for setback measurements. Frederick County amended its zoning requirements in Bill 25-12 to explicitly measure distance requirements for cannabis dispensaries from property line to property line. That's Frederick County Code Section 1-19-8, period 404.2, subsection B. Harford County has repeatedly voted down resolutions, most recently Bill 24-009 and Bill 24-037, that would have permitted and defined zoning requirements, and accordingly, the Department of Planning and Zoning cannot legally issue permits to cannabis dispensaries. Well, we're not Harford County. However, Bill 24-037 proposed distance requirements that would have measured lot line to lot line. Charles County, we're going to keep going because I got a couple more. Under Zoning Text Amendment 23-180, adopted under Bill 2024-01, effective 3/23/2024, distance requirements are measured from a cannabis facility to the nearest property line of a school, daycare facility, etc. Carroll County, under zoning regulation section 158.040, subsection A and subsection B5, dispensary buildings must be at least 400 feet from the nearest property line of a sensitive area such as residential, school, religious, or care facility. Washington County, by Ordinance 2024-37, the state limitations were incorporated into the county's zoning regulations effective October 15, 2024, and appear to measure by building to building. St. Mary's County, Section This is Section 4, Chapter Section 51.3.76.a, subsection 4, provides that a dispensary may not be within 500 feet of the property line of sensitive areas. And Cecil County, under Bill 2023-11, the county imposes a 1,000-foot distance requirement from a hospital, house of worship, or school measuring from building to building. In short, there's lots of different ways to do this. Lots of counties have measured it different ways, but I've told you how we do most things here in our county, and generally we measure lot line to lot line. That's what this bill proposes to do. So we can have lots of arguments about whether this is appropriate or inappropriate, but in the end, what you can see very clearly is that lot line to lot line measurements are not unusual for Anne Arundel County, and many surrounding jurisdictions have adopted how they are going to measure the distances when it comes to licensed cannabis establishments or facilities. So I share that because at the last meeting, there was some discussion, and I asked the administration if they had these details about what other counties were doing, and they were unable to share them, but they told me that they were, not really clear, and this was sort of the outside. This was not a typical thing. And in fact, in surveying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, looks like 12 of our neighboring jurisdictions, 11 of them have passed regulations on this, and they are all relatively consistent with what we're doing. So with that, this is a reasonable, sensible way to measure distance. It's a way consistent with what we do with the code, and I thank you for your time and attention.
How would you like to respond to that, Mr. Hunt?
Take your time.
That was a lot. So administration is still opposed to the legislation. I know we spoke earlier at the last meeting about the half distance requirement, and that was amended out, which improves the bill, but we're still opposed because I think when you're looking at the requirement that you have a 100-foot buffer from lot line to lot line with a residential use, that really inhibits where these facilities can be built or licensed, because residential uses don't just occur in residential districts. They can be in mixed use districts. We've seen them added as accessory uses in commercial districts. I mean, there are a lot of places where you can have residential uses, and we worry that would really limit the ability of illegal use to have a licensed establishment. And the other point of opposition is that the policy implication of moving forward with restrictions that would place the county in conflict with the state mission to support historically disadvantaged entrepreneurs. This is a state-supported social equity operator at this facility. So for those reasons, we're opposed to the bill. And I know there are folks here to testify. So happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Volke.
Just a quick question. So I hear you on the second point, and I think that's a piece of your opposition that I don't think this bill deals with one way or the other, right? To me, to the extent that you're talking about the state policy, this bill is a measurement bill. That's really it, right? So I hear you on that, but I don't think this bill and what we're talking about with respect to the code really has anything to do with that. But on your first point, which has to do with residential areas, so am I understanding that the concern is the 100-foot setback from residential districts, and that absent that, it would make the administration more comfortable?
So the bill, the language in the bill isn't residential districts, it's residential uses.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
So that is the big concern, is that
Okay.
that would really limit the availability of, parcels where this would be allowed.
So I'm going to ask you similarly to how I was asking at the last meeting. So
Yeah.
if that were to be removed, does that help to get this to a place where the administration can be supportive?
I think it would make us more comfortable, but again, there's still the policy concern.
Which, I think we can agree. The policy concern is not something we can address. We don't set state policy. We don't dictate state policy. We're simply talking about how do we measure something, right? So again, I raised the same question I asked the last time. If this isn't the way to measure it, how does the administration propose to measure it, if not property line to property line?
I mean, I think there are different ways you could do it. I know liquor stores are measured door line to lot line.
So is that what you'd be more comfortable with?
I believe so, yeah.
So, okay, so I want to understand the administration's position. If we were to amend this bill to remove the 100 feet for residential uses, the setback there, and if we were to say that we're going to measure from entryway to lot line of one of these, under state law, establishments that we say, and I'm saying establishment, but I'm referring to like childcare, schools, things like that.
Right.
If we measured it that way, you would be on board with this bill?
I would have to take it back to the county executive to see, but
Okay.
that, I'm just raising that as an example of another way that measurements could be done.
Well, and I guess that's really where I'm getting at is right. And I appreciate the administration's willingness to have these conversations, but this bill has been out in the public view, if you will, for approximately 6 weeks. And before that, I floated this to the administration. And everybody got to see what was going on. I've yet to hear from the administration what amendments to this bill would actually get it to a place that they could support it. I just keep hearing that they don't like what the bill is. And so that's why I'm trying to hone really in on what are the specific changes that the administration wants to see that could get the administration to a place where the administration gives it the thumbs up and says we approve. And so if that is removal of the residential setback and removal or changing the distance measurement from entryway to lot line as opposed to lot line, I'd like to know that. I just want to know how I get that official position from the administration to know those details.
Certainly, I will take it back.
Okay, and you can get that for me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Does administration have anything to add? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 2926. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 38 pieces which were shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay, we will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as there are others signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. I'm going to call up the first 6 people: Jacob Hoffner, Eddie Pounds, Brandon Davis, Jeffrey Kubik, Juan Denise, and Deborah Jester. Sure. All right. So let's see. It looks like we'll still have a couple, Bonnie Booth and Barbara Clark. Are they here? Okay. All right. Sir, you may go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Hoffner of Arundel, Maryland, and I'm here in opposition to Bill 2926. There are 3 problems with the bill. 1, the family child care home provision is unworkable. There are hundreds of these homes that are private residences across the county and no notification system when a new one registers. A dispensary could comply on day 1 and be in violation on day 30. Strike it. 2, no map, no vote. The stacked buffers could function as a near total ban in walkable commercial corridors. There's no planning and zoning analysis on the public record that I'm aware of. At a minimum, defer the vote until a proper map exists. 3, the bill costs the equity framework voters approved for. Arundel CRRC distributed $1.69 million in cannabis tax fund grants last year to communities and that the state identified as harmed by cannabis prohibition, communities that all of you represent. Suppressing the legal market suppresses that funding stream. All that said, let's add some context. A tax-exempt congregation is pushing the county to restrict a tax revenue stream that funds reinvestment in disadvantaged neighborhoods. The asymmetry between who is asking for and who pays is at the heart of what's wrong with this bill. Anne Arundel voters approved cannabis 3 years ago at 65% support. One congregation's grievance is not a mandate to overturn that through zoning. A yes vote makes a licensed industry nearly impossible to comply with, legislates a zoning map this council has not yet seen, and suppresses the funding for the communities that you represent at the request of one congregation in one district with one specific dispute. Council members, the right vote for 2926 is a no. And to the comments earlier, it does have to do with measurements. If those measurements limit the ability to generate tax dollars that are distributed to disadvantaged communities in our county.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffner.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Jeff Kubik, 99 Dales Way Drive, Pasadena. It's my pleasure to present my testimony this evening to the council. I've had the pleasure to talk to each of you over several sessions, and I've listened to public comment over the last 3 weeks. This bill I fully support, and believe that it has the support of the wider community beyond Pasadena and into Annapolis, Western Anne Arundel County, and elsewhere. This is a bill that provides clarity, and I appreciate Councilman Volke for demonstrating to this panel that other counties have already adopted more stringent standards. I'm a lifelong resident of Anne Arundel County, and I never thought I would say that Montgomery County actually beats us on conservative principles. In terms of tax revenue, I find it a conflict of interest that Mr. Brandon Davis sits as one of 13 volunteer commissioners on the reinvestment panel. He determines where these grants go from cannabis tax revenue. I would ask that anyone that has a direct financial stake in cannabis dispensaries recuse themselves from this body. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kubik. Yes, ma'am.
It's okay. Good evening. Barbara Clark, 106 Dalesway Drive, Pasadena. I'm here tonight expressing my support for the bill presented by Councilman Volke. Speaking here 2 weeks ago, I offered studies showing the impact of dispensaries near school children within a 10-minute drive of a facility. They had a higher percentage of cannabis use disorder, even though underage to purchase. It showed that the influence normalized cannabis use and exposed them to a pro-usage mentality. Studies also showed that it made it easier for kids to buy a few blocks away from the dispensary from a stranger or older friend. These facts cannot be ignored. After looking at other state zoning guidelines, it appears that Anne Arundel County has abdicated common sense zoning concerning placements of cannabis dispensaries, where other states are protecting the most vulnerable in their communities. In the broader part of Maryland common sense, protective zoning is happening. In 2023, this county went backwards with protection. It's time we step back up to the plate and recalibrate where dispensaries are located. While some may think we are just trying to protect our neighborhood, churches, daycare, and kids surrounding 91 Ritchie Highway, that is far from the truth. This location brought to light this zoning problem. We want to protect all communities in this county. Obviously, the owner of 91 Ritchie knows the area does not want him there. He's hired a lobbyist to try to make it work. While this gentleman is charismatic, he is hired to be so. When this is done, he'll move on to another job. We are not hired people. We are your fellow citizens that are at home here. He will not be voting, but we will. This should be a common sense, responsible vote to protect the most vulnerable in our county. Businesses should never be a higher priority than human beings living, worshiping, and enjoying community life. Please protect us from cannabis dispensaries in these areas. Pass this bill to let them find appropriate areas to sell cannabis. We are not trying in any way to stop dispensaries, only asking for wise locations rather than what our irresponsible zoning laws are currently providing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Jester, 504 Kent Avenue in Pasadena. I'm a member of Pasadena United Methodist Church, and I'm also chairperson of the Pasadena Early Learning Center. And I'm here speaking in support of Nathan Volke's amendment. Picture this just for a moment. A church and a preschool have faithfully served their community for decades. Every weekday morning, parents walk their little children through those doors, trusting that this is a safe and nurturing place. Families gather there for worship, counseling, food drives, and support during life's hardest moments. Then one day, the community learns a cannabis dispensary has been approved just down the street. People are confused because they believe setback protections were supposed to prevent this. But the problem wasn't that there were no rules. The problem was the rules were unclear. The ordinances said the dispensary had to be 500 feet away, but 500 feet from where? Door to door, property line to property line, from the playground, from the parking lot children use every day. Interpretation varies. And suddenly neighbors are divided. Parents are angry. The church feels ignored. The business owner has already invested enormous amounts of money. Lawsuits begin. Trust in local government breaks down, all because the setback requirements were not clearly established. Setbacks are not arbitrary lines on a map. They are safeguards. They provide fairness and clarity for churches, schools, businesses, and families alike. When setback rules are clearly written and carefully measured, everyone knows where they stand before construction begins. Conflict is reduced, communities are protected, businesses are treated fairly. Good boundaries do not create division. They create trust, order, and accountability.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Stumple, speaking on behalf of Wanda Niece at 8348 Schmitz Lane, Pasadena, Maryland. She lives at 231 Light Street Avenue in Pasadena for over 50 years, well within the 1,000 feet of the dispensary that wants to open. I have 3 grandkids that live with me and 5 children I have legal custody of. All 8 of these children are involved or have been involved in church, scouts, and after-school activities. This dispensary is like a statue. When you see a statue of God, Mother Mary, any saint or war hero, you think of them or brings to mind your religion of wars fought for our country. Seeing this dispensary reminds them of activities that is against activities I teach them strongly to avoid. We travel this section of Ritchie Highway a lot. These are dispensaries all over our country, and this is a reminder of activities for the children I don't like to be enforced. When we enter the city, we see bars and adult entertainment places, which I have informed them is not an acceptable behavior in our family. Having a dispensary which will be seen several times a week makes me feel the message to my kids is making it feel like it is legal, so therefore it must be okay. This type of activity is why I have legal custody of 5 children while my 3 grandchildren and their mother live with me. It is my strong belief that this is the beginning of illegal use. While dispensaries may provide safe products for people who want to live this lifestyle, I do not want this statute to mislead my kids and think that it is okay, that it does not lead to other use. I feel there are enough statutes in our own country.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Bonnie Booth. I live at 569 Baydale Court, Arundel, Maryland, 21012. I am a member of Pasadena United Methodist Church, and I also serve on the Pasadena Early Learning Center board. I grew up in Linthicum, taught in Glen Burnie, and have lived in Arnold for 33 years. I'm here tonight to state my support of Anne Arundel County Council Bill 2926. Maryland State Legislature specifies that there is a distance requirement of 500 feet between a cannabis dispensary and any sensitive location, including schools, places of worship, playgrounds, and other sensitive areas. The Anne Arundel County policy has been vague and confusing by not stating how to measure that 500-foot distance, from what point to what point, and whether any distance requirement actually exists. Vagueness, confusion, and ambiguous policies lead to reduced public trust, wasted time and resources, and frustration among both the community and business owners. Bill 2926 states clear guidelines for all persons involved, including businesses and sensitive properties. The language of Bill 2926 eliminates the confusion amongst all parties involved. The guidance regarding the location of cannabis dispensaries has not been clear to date. Bill 2926 seeks to avoid problems between business owners and sensitive properties. Laws need to be clearly stated so that all citizens will comprehend and follow them appropriately. Sensitive locations, including schools, churches, libraries, parks, and playgrounds, all serve the community at large and deserve our support of the crystal clear wording and direction of Bill 2926. Thank you for listening and considering our positions tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. The next group coming up, Stephen Clark, Michael Stumpfall, Laura Stumpfall, Glenn Whaley, Rajiv Bala, and Dan Kwasny. Yes, sir, you can go ahead.
Hello, my name is Steve Clark. I reside at 106 Dalesway Drive, Pasadena. Good evening, and thank you for hearing my remarks. I'd like to speak in favor of passage of Bill 2926 and specifically address three areas of the bill. First, it's been suggested that the lot line to lot line methodology of measurement should be door to door or door to other lot line, as in other legislation, specifically packaged goods stores. This argument is unfounded, as there are many zoning regulations which use lot line measurements, such as adult entertainment, solid waste recycling facilities, and animal facilities, to name a few. Lot lines are unmoving, whereas a door can be relocated in the future renovation, thereby potentially circumventing the zoning regulations. Secondly, the inclusion of a setback relative to the residential lot line has been challenged by the county administration reviewing the bill, stating that it's not included in the setback requirements for a liquor store. The inappropriate exclusion and disregard for the safety of residential children and families in previous legislation should have no bearing on this legislation. Setback in existing legislation includes school, churches, and daycare centers. The safety of residential children is just as a serious concern as it is for these other gatherings of children. Let me also suggest that any statement that this legislation limits available sites for dispensaries is erroneous, as the existing dispensaries in Anne Arundel County meet the setback requirements established in this legislation. I'm not speaking in opposition to the opening of dispensaries, but rather the appropriate location of these facilities. Again, I urge you to pass this legislation to protect the most vulnerable members of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Stumfel. I live at 8348 Schmitz Lane, Pasadena, Maryland. I'm a resident of Anne Arundel County. I'm a registered architect and a principal with a national architectural firm. I'm licensed through the AIA and NCARB, and throughout my career, I've worked extensively with zoning regulations, permitting processes, land development, and code compliance issues in Maryland and surrounding states. I'm here tonight in support of County Council Bill 2926. I want to emphasize that my support for this bill is not about opposition to legalized cannabis businesses. Rather, it's about the importance of having clear, consistently applied local regulations that align with state requirements and provide certainty for residents, business owners, developers, and local institutions alike. The state of Maryland established baseline distance requirements for schools, child care centers, playgrounds, houses of worship. However, Anne Arundel County has lacked clear local guidance regarding how these distances should be interpreted and measured. That uncertainty has created confusion. Bill 2926 helps correct that problem by establishing clearer local standards and bringing Anne Arundel County more in line with other Maryland counties. From a professional standpoint, clarity in land use regulations is essential. Developers, design professionals, property owners, and community members all benefit when rules are transparent and consistently enforced. I would also encourage the county to avoid broad grandfathering provisions that could unintentionally promote an act first and ask for forgiveness later approach to land development. When unclear situations are allowed to proceed without resolution, it can create incentives for future applicants to move forward aggressively before important zoning and compatibility questions are fully addressed. I understand that elected officials regularly hear concerns that can sometimes be characterized as simple opposition to change, and it's called the NIMBYs. I do not believe this issue falls into that category.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Laura Stumfel. I live at 8348 Schmitz Lane, Pasadena, Maryland. A former high school teacher, currently work with special needs children in the classroom for the last 9 years. I am a member of the Pasadena United Methodist Church. I'm a resident of Anne Arundel County. Within the church community, I teach Sunday school. I lead the youth group. I've been involved with Cub Scouts, and it's an active community with sensitive sensitive area for youth to interact and have a safe place. I have my own children, 2 children that have, one has gone through the preschool. They both have been active in all these groups that I have mentioned. I have lived and worked in this community for many years, and I care deeply about the families, schools, churches, and neighborhoods that make this county such a strong place to live. I am here tonight in support of County Council Bill 2926. The state of Maryland has established rules governing cannabis retail operations, including distance requirements from schools, child care centers, playgrounds, and houses of worship. The problem is that at the local level, there has been confusion about how those distance requirements should be interpreted and measured. That lack of clarity has created frustration, misunderstandings, and distrust among residents, church members, business owners, and community organizations. Bill 2926 helps resolve that confusion by providing clear guidance for everyone involved. It also brings Anne Arundel County more in line with other Maryland counties that have already clarified and implemented these standards at the local level. Clear rules benefit businesses because they know what standards apply before making investments. Clear rules benefit residents because they can trust.
Thank you, Ms. Stumfel. Yes, sir.
Thank you, honorable council members of the Anne Arundel County Council. My name is Glenn Whaley. I live at 1220 Destiny Circle here in Annapolis, which I think puts me in District 5. Council member Fiedler's district. I speak in favor of the council member Volke's Bill 29-26. His bill is consistent with Maryland state law. It's consistent with previous zoning decisions of the council. And finally, it is also consistent with zoning approaches taken by most populous counties in Maryland. Section 36-410 of the Maryland Code makes clear that counties have a degree of freedom in zoning for cannabis dispensaries. In fact, the amended regulation makes clear that counties can adopt zoning regulations that are less than those suggested by the state of Maryland. Currently, Anne Arundel County has no zoning requirements for dispensaries under the state's permissive regulation. Therefore, based on Section 36-410, the county is obligated to apply a 500-foot distance requirement for all new dispensaries from sensitive places, such as schools, playgrounds, libraries, and houses of worship. Within the same section of the Maryland Code, sellers of alcoholic beverages are similarly restricted. However, the state's clear that measurement of applicable distance requirements are measured entryway to entryway. Notably, the distance requirements for sellers of alcoholic beverages is 1,000 feet. This way of measuring is only applicable to sellers of alcoholic beverages and is not mandated by the state. In fact, the legislation is clear that the specific zoning requirements are left to the respective counties of Maryland. I heartily endorse Mr. Volke's effort to clarify this confusing situation by making clear the way in which the state distance requirements are measured for purposes of permitting cannabis dispensaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. Yes, sir.
Good evening, honorable council members. My name is Rajiv Bala, and I live at 368 Magathy Road in Severna Park, which also puts me in District 5 in Councilmember Fiedler's district. I also speak in favor of Councilmember Volke's Bill 29-26. As my predecessor has just noted, his bill is consistent with Maryland state law. It is consistent with previous zoning decisions of the council. Anne Arundel County did in fact have distance zoning requirements for cannabis dispensaries. These regulations appeared as Anne Arundel County Code 18-10-140 and provided distance requirements from residential areas and also from public and private schools. Under the code, these distance requirements were measured from lot line to lot line. And in fact, most of all of Anne Arundel County zoning requirements are measured from lot line to lot line. This regulation was amended in Anne Arundel County Bill 56-23, and while it eliminated the distance requirements for dispensaries, presumably in light of the pending state actions, it retained the distance requirements for cannabis processors and explicitly notes that this distance requirement should be measured from lot line to lot line. A review of Anne Arundel County Code Section 18-10 shows that virtually all distance requirements are measured in this way. The only clear exception is the one pertaining to sellers of alcoholic beverages, where the measurement is stipulated by the state of Maryland. Mr. Volke's proposed Resolution 2926 simply follows Anne Arundel County's sensible and obvious approach to calculating distance requirements. I wholeheartedly support this resolution and encourage the council to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bala. Yes, sir.
Members, my name is Dan Quasley. My wife Patty and I live at 1424 Catbrier Way in Odenton. That's Chairperson Hummer's district. I also, like the predecessors, I'm here to speak in favor of Councilman Volke's resolution, Bill 2926. The bill is consistent with Maryland state law, and it's consistent with previous zoning decisions of the council. It's also consistent with the approaches of leading Maryland counties, as Councilman Volke stated pretty comprehensively in his introductory comments. I mean, so many counties, Montgomery, Prince George's, Baltimore County, Frederick County, have all adopted dispensary distance regulations that measure property line to property line. Baltimore City, while not having adopted dispensary distance requirements, has approved a bill that is now awaiting the mayor's signature, requiring distance requirements for so-called smoke shops, which also measures those requirements to property lines. Howard County, although not having explicit dispensary distance requirements, like Anne Arundel County, regularly uses property line to property line measurements and calculations for their zoning restrictions. Harford County also does not have any current zoning for cannabis dispensaries, and its county council chairman has repeatedly stated that they will not approve any dispensaries in Harford County. But however, the failed bills there that were presented, that were rejected, they all proposed distance requirements that were measured property line to property line. This has been the consistent pattern in this area for a long time. So again, I just speak in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quasny. Next up, Lee Augsburger and Mr. Pounds, if you and your colleagues would like to come up as well. I don't know how many. Was it just two? Okay. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, we have 2 more seats up here. You may come on up. We'll have more after this. Don't worry. We'll do till everyone comes. So, Mr. Augsburger, you want to go ahead?
Thank you. Honorable council members, my name is Reverend Lee Augsburger. I live at 476 Lymington Road in Severna Park. As a pastor of a house of worship within 450 feet of the proposed dispensary, as measured by entryway to entryway, I wholeheartedly support Council Member Volke's bill. It does clarify things, but in point of fact, as a regulatory lawyer of 30 years before atoning by going to seminary, I'm a little confused about this entire discussion, because under state and county regulation, irrespective of the proposal, I think Anne Arundel County is prohibited by state law from granting a permit, because the Severna Park Evangelical Presbyterian Church sits less than 500 feet entryway to entryway from the proposed dispensary. I'm confused as to how the zoning department could entertain a permit for that in light of current law. And I think that's appropriate. Normalizing the use of recreational cannabis in the immediate proximity to schools, parks, daycare centers, libraries, and so forth cannot be the desire of the council. With literally hundreds of Anne Arundel County children using the facilities of our church weekly, we encourage the council to be clear and to take this stand. Mr. Volke's resolution simply provides a sensible approach. It's consistent with prior county zoning decisions. It's consistent with the zoning regs of other leading Maryland counties, and it's consistent with the state legislation. Please see my written testimony in support of those statements. I wholeheartedly support this resolution as a private citizen, and as a pastor across the street, I encourage you as council members to support this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Augsburg. Mr. Pounds.
Nice to meet y'all. My name is Brandon Davis. I am a part owner of the property at 91 Ritchie Highway, also the owner of the dispensary license, Vital, that is intending to operate at that location. I'm here today in direct opposition of this bill. I believe that when we first undertook this process, we did the proper due diligence to understand what the county's position is as far as where dispensaries can be located. We bought the property under those pretenses, and we intend to operate under those pretenses. I think, if you move forward with this, with enacting this bill, it actually does a disservice to the community at large by, inhibiting fare from the community, also the church members. I just want to say, as a business owner, I hear the concerns of the community, I hear the concerns of the church, the neighbors, and we are here to be good stewards of the property, and we intend to operate as such.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Who's next?
Hello, my name is Amron Pasha. I live at 14456 Tradelphia Mill Road in Dayton, Maryland. I would like to thank the County Council for the opportunity to speak here today. Brandon Davis and I purchased the property back in August of 2025. Before we bought the property, we did our due diligence. And part of our due diligence, we got a zoning letter from the county. And according to the zoning letter, a cannabis dispensary was a use allowed at this location, but was subject to the distance requirements. We investigated the county's distance requirements and found that in 2023, a bill was adopted that eliminated any distance requirements from any place of worship or any residential property. Just to confirm, we actually called the county zoning department and we were told the same thing. After we bought the property, I met with Jeff Kubik, the residential neighbor just behind our property. And, he asked me what was coming in, and I told him that we intended to put in a cannabis dispensary here. He seemed concerned, and I told him that, listen, we have 2.66 acres, and the dispensary is on the front part of the lot, and there's about an acre and a half between us and his lot, which is unused, which is going to be, which will create a buffer between us and his house. He was concerned about the smell originating from a dispensary, and I told him that, we only have pre-pack items. We don't do any processing, we don't do any growing, so there isn't going to be any smell coming from this place. He asked if we could put in a wood fence instead of the wire mesh fence that we had. It's about a 100-foot fence, which was going to cost about $10,000 to $12,000. And I told him that we would.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. Eddie Pounds for the record. I represent Vital Dispensary. Thank you for having me here again. I want to thank Councilman Volke for the bill and for the actually healthy discussion. So I'll move quickly. You went through 12 jurisdictions. I don't have time to go through all 12, but I am a land use attorney from Prince George's County. I want to set the record straight. We measure door-to-door walkable path. Okay, let me also say for the record, there's no conflict for Mr. Davis to serve on the reinvestment board and be a licensee. Last point I'm going to make, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time here because it's important. And I mentioned it on May 1st. There's two code sections, state law, that kind of should guide the discussion here. 11603A of the Alcoholic Beverages and Cannabis article already provides how to measure distance restrictions for liquor stores from places of worship or schools. And it is clear that the measurement is entryway to entryway. More importantly, though, Section 36410 of the same article, which speaks to operation of a licensed dispensary, provides that a political subdivision may not adopt an ordinance establishing zoning requirements for licensed dispensaries that are more restrictive than zoning requirements for liquor stores. That is what we're dealing with today. I understand the intent, Councilman Volke, but the bill on its face is, for lack of better words, an attempt to zone out what is a legally viable, legally placed, legally located concern in Anne Arundel County. And with that, I am in, of course, opposition to the bill. But again, I thank you for the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Higgins.
Good evening. For the record, Paul Higgins, 8084 Woodholm Circle, Pasadena. I've sat here several meetings and listened to the personal pieces of this, but what I want to talk about is the bill itself. What I see is a chance for this bill to put, we've heard the term consistency. That's kind of come up pretty regular. I consider it common sense for where one of these things go and don't go. I feel for the gentleman at the end of the table that might be caught in a catch-22 with a change being made midstream. But I believe making this change now prevents this conversation from reoccurring again. Mr. Volke, I'm concerned with your dialogue on perhaps extending this to find common ground. We've had 6 weeks. And in the spirit of Mr. Swenson, who is not here, it's time to put this bill before you and vote. With that, I yield my time back to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Ms. Leahy.
Hi, Amy Leahy, and I'm with the Severna Park, Greater Severna Park Council. I'm the vice president, and I've been authorized by GSPC to speak on behalf of, in support of Councilman Volke's bill. There are a couple of things that I want to bring up that maybe they haven't been discussed, but I'm going to bring them up anyway. Originally, the owner of this property requested a rezoning, and the explanation was different from what turned out to be. So this property would have never been rezoned if the owner had kept the property the way he originally said he was going to. So just to let you know, and I also was on the Citizens Advisory Committee for a while, so I saw a lot of changes happen along the same lines. The purpose of this bill is clear. It strives to protect our neighborhoods, and as the Greater Severna Park Council, that's what we do, is we have been trying to protect and keep our communities the way the folks that live here want to see them kept. Our families are the backbones of our communities, and our children are the most vulnerable among us. It's our duty and commission to protect children by not intentionally exposing them to danger. We have many laws on the books already dealing with registered sex offenders, for example, who are required to be without, with outside of certain areas. Anyway, sorry, I'm having a little brain thing here. So this law would reiterate that our commitment to protecting our children, and also the inclusion of the public areas where children congregate, such as libraries, parks, churches, and schools. It's necessary to ensure their protection and innocence. Many churches also have drug and alcohol recovery programs within their walls, and having a cannabis dispensary within close proximity is an invitation for them to yield temptation and undermines their successful recovery.
Thank you, Ms. Leahy. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 2926? Yes, sir.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I think as we're listening, I'm Pastor John Nupp from Pasadena United Methodist Church, one of 2 churches that are represented in this discussion, and trying to get I'll go old school. Our current site was designed to fit into the midst of an oak forest that lined Ritchie Highway in 1958. We worship in a space that looks up at vaulted ceilings, but our prayers are shaped by the view that we see as we look out the windows that serve in place of brick walls in our church. And this is perhaps the best feature of our building. It does make it a little challenging sometimes to keep attention while I'm preaching, but people like to look out the windows and they see the community, and they feel called as a result to serve in the community. For the past 50 years, we've welcomed the families and staff who daily operate our early learning center. Each weekend throughout the school year, children still play among the oak trees that were here long before us. This community has changed and will continue to change to make room for more families and businesses along this piece of the highway, but we want that to take place with a respect for the people who preceded us and the beauty that surrounds us. Our congregation and school represent a dozen different zip codes in Anne Arundel County. I ask that you please support the intention of Bill 2926. The lack of guidance on this issue has generated distrust between community members and business owners. Bill 2926 eliminates this confusion by providing clear guidance for all parties. It's not intended to single out any individual owner or relitigate the legality of cannabis dispensaries in our region. Rather, it is our hope that others might avoid problems caused by the lack of clear guidance on this issue. Everyone benefits from a community where the laws enacted by the state are clearly communicated and followed. I come from a family of farmers and test pilots who have enforced in me a respect for distance. So,
Thank you, sir. All right. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill 2926? All right. Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 2926 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 2926 as amended.
Bill number 2926, an ordinance concerning zoning, conditional use requirements, licensed dispensaries of cannabis.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate everybody who came out to testify for or against. I agree with what Mr. Pound said. It's a great discussion. I appreciate that. I do want to say I had a chance to pull up Prince George's County's law, CB-013-2024. I'm on page 25 of that bill. It talks about commercial uses, subsection retail sales and service uses, subsection G, cannabis dispensary. And it reads, and I quote, "The boundaries of property used as a medical cannabis dispensary shall be at least 500 feet from any existing or planned residential use or property in a residential zone, including a residential comprehensive design zone under the prior ordinance." To be clear, our bill as proposed has 100 feet. It then says at least 500 feet from any pre-existing primary or secondary school in the state or pre-existing licensed childcare center or registered pre-existing family childcare home pursuant to the education article annotated code of Maryland. So this goes to the gentleman's concerns about these, childcare facilities popping up and then all of a sudden putting somebody out of compliance. It has to be pre-existing. That is the idea with this. It needs to be it. And if we have to add the word pre-existing, I'm fine with that. But the intent is not to take somewhere that was good and then say it's no longer good, right? And then it goes on to say a playground, recreation center, library, or public park, and at least 1,000 feet from another cannabis dispensary or cannabis micro dispensary, at least 2,000 feet from any liquor store. So that is how Prince George's County, which is one of our closer neighbors and a jurisdiction that we look to many times to say, how do they legislate things? That's how they've done it. Is the admin coming back up? Oh, I'm inviting you. I hope you come up. I need Miss Miller for a moment. I also want to clarify, so I'd sent an email last week because my understanding from some folks in the community was that there had been some discussion that this bill really was not going to have any impact on the proposed cannabis dispensary at 91 Ritchie Highway, and that some of the folks who were proponents of the dispensary had been telling people that this bill was sort of what you call a rope-a-dope, right? It wasn't going to do what it said it was going to do because the approval had already happened. I just want to ask Ms. Miller, has Office of Planning and Zoning issued any approvals regarding this dispensary at that particular location yet?
Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. No, we have not issued any approvals.
Okay. My understanding is Planning and Zoning did offer what's called a zoning verification letter. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and I think that was done last year?
Correct.
And can you just explain for the benefit of people watching at home and hear what a zoning verification letter is and how that would differ from an approval?
Sure. A zoning verification letter is provided per request when a constituent wants to know whether a particular use would be allowed in the zoning district that it's located in. So the letter provides whether the use is allowed or not. It provides whether it's permitted, conditional, or special exception, and it references any related conditions in the code.
Gotcha.
It does not provide information about any regulations in the state code. It strictly speaks to the county's code, and it's not considered an approval of a permit, a zoning certificate use, or any other type of application.
Okay, and just to confirm, Office of Law agrees there is a ZVL, as it's referred to, is not any kind of an approval and does not confer any sort of rights on an applicant because it's not an approval of any kind of zoning or use.
Right, correct. Kelly County Supervisor County Attorney, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Pickard.
So with that statement, why would anybody seek a verification letter anyway? Why would they seek that letter, that verification, if it doesn't? How would someone proceed to buy property with a verification letter that the use they're looking to buy if it doesn't actually mean that what it says it means?
Kelly County Supervising County Attorney, it gives them, and it lets them know that the use is allowed or not allowed on the property. It does not let them know that that property meets those conditions. So there's no review of the property, the lot lines, or anything indicating that the property would meet those conditions. It just says that the use is allowed in that zoning district.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you. And just one quick follow-up, Ms. Kenny, because you were on this and we're not in court, so we can talk about hearsay, right? You were on the email chain. I think you also saw that inspections and permits weighed in, and they have also not given any building or grading permits or certificate of occupancy at this time. Is that right?
That's correct. The Director of Inspections and Permits said that no permit's been issued as of yet.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Secretary, can you add me as a co-sponsor to Bill 2926?
Yes, Ms. Fiedler, thank you.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, I would make a motion to hold open the public testimony on this bill, and I would ask that we do it until the June 15th, 2026 meeting of the County Council, at which point we would hear this bill again.
Second.
I had already declared that closed. Miss, just looking, do you need to have the motion to reopen? Okay.
Does it need to be
want to make sure.
Separate motion to reopen, or can we just do it all at once? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess that would be, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on reopening the public hearing.
And to hold the vote until June 15th.
And to hold the vote until June 15th.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Nay.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The motion to keep the public hearing open and hold the vote until June 15th has passed.
Okay. So the bill number 2926 as amended will be held until June 15th. Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 3026.
Bill number 3026, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Resilience Authority of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, Membership Director.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. Joining me at the table are Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney, and Matt Fleming, the Executive Director of the Resilience Authority. This legislation was introduced at the request of the Resilience Authority of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. It is sorry, give me 1 second here. Let's see. So basically, this bill does a couple things. It makes the executive director an appointee of the board of directors and an employee of the board of directors of the Resilience Authority. Sorry, just appointment, right? Yeah, serves at the pleasure of the board. And it also removes the residency requirements for the board. That was a request of the board as a result of their conversations with other similar entities around the country. At the appropriate time, there is an amendment that rolls that back a bit and requires at least 5 of the appointees of the county executive. He has 9. Requires at least 5 of them to be residents of the county. So we're happy to discuss that at the appropriate time and answer any questions.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. We will now open the public hearing on bill number 3026. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, we did not.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. We have 1 person signed up, Lily Openshaw. And if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak on bill number 3026, you may come up at this time as well.
Do I just?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is Lily Openshaw, and I've lived at 10 Wainwright Avenue in Bay Ridge for 25 years. I'm a professional civil environmental engineer and past president of the Bay Ridge Civic Association. I work regularly on resiliency issues with communities across the Annapolis Neck Peninsula as we prepare for the difficult infrastructure decisions ahead. I'm here tonight to represent Bay Ridge's position on Bill 3026. Bay Ridge supports the continued growth and success of the Resilience Authority. However, we respectfully urge that Bill 3026 not advance without further public discussion and meaningful amendment. The proposed removal of county and city residency requirements for the Board of Directors represents a major governance change for an authority that is rapidly expanding its influence over resiliency planning, infrastructure investment, grant prioritization, and climate adaptation policy throughout Anne Arundel County and Annapolis. As the authority grows with projects involving Glen Burnie Town Center, Edgewater Recreation Center, Spa Road redevelopment, mobility and EV infrastructure planning, public accountability and local representation should become more important, not less. Bay Ridge absolutely supports bringing broader technical expertise onto the board, but expertise and representation are not and should not be mutually exclusive. The legislation can be revised to preserve meaningful county and city representation while also establishing expertise categories. In closing, Bay Ridge respectfully urges the council to pause Bill 3026 and allow additional public discussion to adopt amendments that increase the authority's expertise and preserve public accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Openshaw. Yes, sir.
I'm Kurt Karsten. I live at 51 East Lake Drive. What she said.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, sir. All right. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 3026? Okay, seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 3026 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 3026.
Bill number 3026, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Resilience Authority of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, membership, director.
Okay, any further discussion before we move forward with the amendment? Ms. Pickard.
I just wanted to have a conversation about what got us here to this bill, if you would indulge the council. I tend to agree that we need residency requirements. I'm not saying for all, what appears to be 12 total members from the city, 3 from the city, 9 from the county, and then how we would bring in, so what prompted the removal of residency requirements, and where do we think we could find some common ground here?
The intent was never to replace. First, thank you for sticking around tonight. Appreciate it. The intent was never.
You're the ones who stuck
No.
around.
You guys are here.
We don't
here
have
all
a
night.
choice.
No.
We got to be here.
The intent was never to replace local representation. We have a tremendous board, a deep amount of experience. I've been so fortunate to be able to serve on their behalf. It was just to create some flexibility if that opportunity or specific expertise area, or if there was a need that was not represented in the county. So it was just, I think the way that we proposed this, and I'll take full blame for that, and presenting it back was too broad. It was not meant to replace it. It was more so as like, as we're growing, if there was a need to bring in somebody with bond experience or to help with philanthropic expertise, and that expertise didn't sit in the county or in the city, that we had that flexibility from the start. So I think the amendment certainly regarding kind of adjusting that, I think helps address that.
May I?
Yes.
Is there, I like the amendment as it relates to county residency of those 9 appointed by the county executive. Is there a way to seek expertise in an ex officio manner that would expand the board in a way that keeps residency? I mean, I'm comfortable with the amendment that's coming forward, but in general, thinking about the multiple ways that you can expand a board I think would make everybody feel more comfortable. Anyways, that's my comment.
Mr. Volke.
Yeah, I'm following the same train of thought from my colleague that I think removal of the residency requirement is concerning to me. I don't like that. I'll vote for the amendment tonight, obviously, because it gives us more time. I'd rather see this go back to everybody has to be a resident, but if the board needs additional people, you can always put ex officio members on, whether they're from the county or not, because maybe they have some specialized expertise that you need. So I think from the board standpoint, and the reason that's so important to me is because if we are going to make the change that then the director reports to and serves at the pleasure of the board, in my mind, those people have got to be at a minimum in Arundel County residents. I don't want out-of-county people deciding who the director is of the Resilience Authority. I guess the one question that I would have is, it's currently set up where your position is appointed by the county exec with concurrence of the mayor. This would move it from the board would appoint with concurrence, it looks like, of the county exec and the mayor. So it changes that. Am I seeing that the right way?
Yeah, so the original, I think when I first came and talked to you guys at like a work session,
yeah,
I promised that I would work towards getting the legislation back to how it was originally passed. And it was originally developed and passed in the county and in the city that the Resilience Authority director would be appointed by the board and be a Resilience Authority employee. That's how it was originally passed. In the recruitment of this position to attract, to create a more attractive opportunity, they turned into a county employee. So it would allow a pension and other opportunities, health benefits, et cetera. So that's when I came in. I think and we worked with you all to pass kind of the opportunity to do the quasi benefit. I think we did that last year. And in that bill, it then also moved me to be an employee of the Resilience Authority. There was that little hiccup where we didn't make that last little change that I would be, serve at the pleasure of the board. And so we just were going back to making that fix. That was this adjustment here. So it's just a cleanup from something, again, I missed last year, so I apologize.
You don't have to apologize. There's a lot going on. But I think the thing I'd like to see is I could probably get behind the change to say the board is in charge if the board is entirely county residents and the ex officio members who are subject matter experts can kind of come and go. I think that would be what, at least for me, and I'm not, obviously, I don't know how others feel, but that would make me the most comfortable. I would just say that.
And yes, Ms. Pickard.
So the bill as currently drafted removes residency for all the members? And the amendment, which we're not talking about yet, I apologize, I'm jumping the gun.
I think I
brings
did that.
back some residency for county. Is there something does this all have to go before the city as well?
Yeah, so it'd go from the county to the city. We did mention that this bill is being heard by the county. We had this conversation in the city last Monday.
So if this body votes to change this bill, the city council has to adopt a similar bill to
File an ordinance, yeah, file suit.
I would assume that they have some thoughts about city residency of their 3 members. Are they
Yes.
having a similar conversation at the city?
Very much so. And the same conversation was, it was not meant to be as broad as it was. It was more
I see.
to allow that flexibility.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Volke.
Thank you. So then just following on that line, what if we just remove the deletion of residents of the county and we just keep it as is, but we keep the other portion of it that we all seem to be okay with, which is the reporting of authority to the board?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, we proposed this to you guys. This is, your decision in terms of the residency requirements.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to look at that with our board, look at the ex officio
Yeah.
as it's a way to address some of this outside expertise if the opportunity was needed. It was just a thought to make, as we're growing, if there was a need there to allow that flexibility, and there might be some other options to look at it.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Pickard.
Sorry. I am really interested in making sure that the Resilience Authority has access to all the professional expertise that you need in a very meaningful way. I think that's a very important thing. This is resiliency, and whether it's the financial mechanisms or the bonding authorities or all the things that go into making sure that it is successful and achieving its goals are really important to me. Figuring out how to do that in a governance structure, it sounds like it may need a little more massaging here. And I'm not an expert on the various ways that you can get that expertise without giving up the goose here. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further, Mr. Volke?
Hopefully, last line of question. Hopefully, I won't promise, but does the Resilience Authority have some form of bylaws or some governance documents that internally govern the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it mirrors very similar to the legislation. And
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, would there be anything that prohibits those documents from being amended to create ex officio members and then allowing the board to appoint ex officio members through a governance structure like that?
certainly, that's it.
Okay, all right. I've been on other boards and that's
Yeah.
the way they do it. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking.
and I think just the conversation about, one, certainly there's expertise that may be needed, but then people do look at the makeup of the board sometimes as far as big donors, et cetera. So I think that was the genesis of some of the conversation that began. But like you said, it's something we can look at.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Pickard.
Yeah, well, I do have substantial nonprofit and board experience in my 54 years on the planet. I also know how, well, actually not quite, not till July. But I also know that a board can get too big as well, and it becomes unwielding. So I do think this probably just needs some more thought put into place before we completely restructure it. Are y'all, I guess we got to introduce this amendment.
Yeah, you can hold it. That's fine.
Correct. Okay.
Are you making a motion to hold the bill?
Second.
Well, let me ask, is there anything we need to know about the timing of this bill for budget purposes, are we able to take some time with this bill? Is there anything timeline specific?
Nope, just
Okay.
95 days, that's it.
Then I'm happy to make a motion to hold bill, whatever number we're on, 30-26 until our June 1st meeting.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian. Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold Bill number 3026 till June 1st has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming, for coming out to have us hold the bill. But bill number 3026 will be heard again on June 1st. Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 3126.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yes.
It will not be heard again on June 1st.
Oh, it
We
will-
will, the public hearing is closed, so we will hold the vote or amend it or whatever the council wishes,
Okay.
but we will not have a public hearing.
Okay.
Just want to make that clear.
There we go.
Thanks.
All right, Madam Secretary, please read the title of bill number 3126.
Bill number 3126, an ordinance concerning zoning residential districts, conditional use agritourism.
Mr. Smith, this is your bill.
All right. This bill came about simply trying to help constituents who had purchased property in my part of the county. I think they live in District Millsville, in that area, I believe, is where the current facility is located. But so we have an opportunity to support responsible agritourism in our residential and rural communities while also strengthening local farms and preserving Anne Arundel County's agricultural heritage. And so for many family farms, Farming alone is no longer enough to stay financially sustainable. Agritourism creates opportunities for farms to host seasonal events, educational programs, pick your own produce activities, farm markets, and community gatherings that connect residents directly to agriculture. These experiences help families learn where their food comes from while supporting small local businesses. I literally just left an Annapolis ribbon cutting on a community greenhouse garden in Eastport where kids will go to see their food grow with their own hands. This legislation does not remove oversight or protections for surrounding neighborhoods. Agritourism would remain a conditional use, meaning every proposal must still go through a review and meet county requirements. The bill also strengthens safety standards by requiring compliance with county construction code and establishes a minimum farm size requirement. Most importantly, this bill helps preserve farmland, which farms have more ways to generate income. They are less likely to be sold. Supporting agritourism is not just about events on a farm. It's about protecting open space, supporting local agriculture, and maintaining the character of our community for future generations. And so I would just simply ask you all to support this legislation. Thank you.
All right. Administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Lynn Miller, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Officer, Callie Kenny, our Senior County Attorney. Happy to answer any questions about the bill. We appreciate the sponsor reaching out to us before introducing it to tweak a little language before the question comes up. I will share. So I just found out the Ag Commission has not had a chance to review it because they haven't met since mid-March. But they're meeting this Thursday, so they'll be able to look at it then.
All right. Mr.
We'll have the
Volke?
public testimony. I'll certainly make a motion to hold once that comes to give them that opportunity to do that as well.
Okay. Mr. Volke?
Yeah, so I always struggle with these because I want to support agritourism and I want to support people being able to stay on their farms. But the one thing that this doesn't deal with and that I always have a question about is what has happened to land where people have already sold the development rights. And by that I mean they have put it into a conservation easement, or they've done something where they have said to the state, we're not going to develop this, and they've been given money for that. And then they turned around and they're preserving it as a farm, but then they're turning around and now they're doing agritourism on top of it, you know, as a way to kind of get the benefit of the money for the development rights being given up, but then also jumping into agritourism. So I'm asking that question because I'm curious if there's been any consideration from the sponsor of the administration as to what this would mean with respect to people who have already gone and put their property into an agricultural easement or some sort of like conservation easement that they've already done through the state, some easement on their land. Curious about that. Has anybody considered that? Is that something that we think about in taking a position on this?
Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. The specific language in an ag preservation easement can vary. So there could be some properties under an ag easement that would not allow any type of agritourism activities, and there could be others that would. I can think of an example of a farm that's under an ag easement that holds farm site special events, such as weddings, etc. So I think it can vary.
But that specific language that's in the easement itself, when they sold whatever property or development rights that they had to get the easement and then get the tax credit for that.
That's correct.
Okay. And that language would be governed by whoever the easement holder is? Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Ms. Ledbetter?
I appreciate the sponsor's intent to the bill. I am a big proponent and supporter of ag tourism. I think when reviewing this with the Ag Commission, my concern would be to just make sure that there's no unintended consequences to the definition changes that are in here to farms that might already be using agritourism as it exists today. And then if there are, mitigating those so that I certainly I'm not opposed to the idea of the expansion that you're suggesting. I just want to make sure that while we're expanding in one lane, we're not curtailing inadvertently in another. So that would be just feedback for you to share with the Ag Commission when you're talking about the bill. But thank you.
Mr. Smith?
I'll just briefly say, no, I'll definitely take that back to the Ag Commission as well. When I first came here, I moved in Severn, on Severn Road. We used to have the Boyer's Farm. And they would, that has since been sold, and it's no longer a farm. But in the urban areas up north, where a lot of the residential communities are, this type of, just like we just did in Eastport, was, for those that did make it over there. If you didn't, you should actually get over there and try to look at it. I think it's a unique way to bring that culture of farming and agritourism or agricultural to Anne Arundel County citizens, especially in the areas where we don't get to see a lot of farming, unless you're walking the whole length of the county or something like that. But for me, the whole benefit of this is actually creating a culture shift. And so there are parts of South County that could benefit from those activities being shown to more kids up north in residential areas, which is why I thought this was important, because it reminded me of when my kids would go to the Boyer's Farm right down the street, and they would pick their vegetables and everything else. And it's part of our DNA. And so this is a way of incorporating this into the long-term sustainability of our county. So thank you.
Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As someone who, we lost our Papa John's farm to a beautiful, shiny new high school, but that farm was on agriculturally zoned land. Is there any thought, is the administration thinking at all about, if you're going to allow agritourism in R5, how does that settle with a little higher density residential area when now you might have farm animals next door that maybe you weren't expecting to have? And are we having any thoughts about that? I mean, I haven't walked this down the road, so some of those unintended consequences of where we allow agrotourism as it relates to farming.
I'll certainly go back and have that discussion. I haven't heard too much about it. I know I did speak with the sponsor earlier, last week, and I spoke with the property owner who would benefit from this today, who actually has a 4-acre parcel that was a farm that's zoned R5. So they do exist, but.
I'm sorry, so there's a working farm on property that's zoned R5.
I'm not sure how active it is right now, but it's a farmhouse with open fields and barns.
And what's next door?
So I mean, there's R5 housing, I think, to the south and the west, and then across the street it might be.
I mean, maybe it's not a problem at all. I just think
Yeah.
it's something we should think about. Somebody has some thoughts from the gallery.
I can speak to that a little, Ms. Pickard. We did have some discussion in planning and zoning about the merits of allowing agritourism in R5 district, because it's a little bit in nature. And as part of that discussion, we did a query a couple of different ways, because there's no exact way to determine exactly how many farms are in the county. But so we did a query by SSTAT agricultural assessments, and we did another one based on our existing land use layer. And both ways we came up with something between 24 and 27 parcels that are zoned either R2 or R5 that have either an ag assessment or are denoted as ag on our existing list. So, and then of those, the vast majority are zoned R2. In other words, the properties that are zoned R5 that right now appear to be used as a farm is a very small number. So we could probably even look at them and look at the land uses around them. But the bottom line is, I think the impact on R5 districts would be minor, because there just aren't many properties.
Ms. Fiedler.
I'll just make a comment about the concern, understanding it's not an apples to apples comparison, but one of my very first bills was a farm brewery bill. There was pushback from the community, but I will tell you that I passed this farm brewery, again, this is not this bill, this weekend, and there was a line for as far as your eye could tell, and that ability for that farm to diversify has really just brought such an asset to the community, surrounded by R5. So.
All right.
In my, Madam, in my phone a friend, apparently agriculture is already a permitted use in all districts. So maybe my question is moot.
All right. So we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 3126. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair, we received one piece which was shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 3126? And we do have some folks coming up. Please come at the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Mr. Hager.
Good morning, good evening.
It's not that late yet. Woo! So.
I want to thank Councilmember Smith for introducing this legislation. This is pretty important stuff. The bill will allow agritourism activities to take place in the R5 and the R2 districts in addition to the RA, RLD, and R1 where it's already permitted conditionally. The bill will promote urban farming and urban farms, especially in areas not necessarily known for traditional agriculture, allowing those areas to benefit from the county's outstanding agritourism programs and practices. Not only is this a benefit for farming and agricultural heritage, it will become another arrow in the county's quiver of economic and employment development opportunities. The activities that this bill will facilitate will promote residents' access to farm fresh food and produce while enhancing hands-on learning opportunities and non-traditional recreation. On behalf of my clients, who you're going to hear from in a moment, I would urge you not to hold this bill tonight. They're under a time constraint with regards to the purchase of this property, and the seller has been kind enough to extend them the time frame to allow this legislation to go through the process. It's critical that we take action on it tonight, if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Brian Runk. We are talking about 8221 Meadowwoods Drive. We are the owners of Hansel Hill Farm. It's a 2-acre farm, urban farm that Arundel County sees as an urban farm. We have over 100 fruit trees, grapevines. We have a high tunnel where we grow hydroponics. 95% of our food that we grow, we give to the community for free. We offer homeschooling, camps. We get thousands of children a week in our 2-acre farm. Now we are going to purchase a 1987 farm, originally the Warfield sister farm, which was 91 acres. Shipley's bought it, put over 1,000 homes, and left a 4-acre historical home there. Either we buy it and use it, what the sole purpose of that building was built for, it was a farm, or it's just going to sit there and rot. Honestly, that's what it's going to do. My wife and I want to start another urban farm in this neighborhood where we're going to bring children in. We're going to teach them how to farm. Our whole benefit and our whole motto is growing a sustainable future. So I want you to look through agritourism through our eyes. I understand it's not a 100-acre farm, but it's an 80-acre corn maze. There's a 4-acre farm, which we are going to bring hundreds of children in. Hundreds of children where farms all across Annapolis County are being sold and developed. We are trying to save just a part of this to maybe not save 100 farms, but teach thousands of children, including their parents, how they can grow fresh food on their deck, on an acre, and in their homes. That's what agritourism is for us. And I get what you're saying with the weddings and everything else, and that is great, but that's not what we're trying to do. And we're asking that to look at our vision of what we want agritourism to be. Opening up this farm is going to benefit thousands of people.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Co-owner of Hansel Hill Farm in Millersville. We've had that farm open for 5 years. We have a full hydroponic system. We have a hoop house that grows produce year-round. We have 100 fruit trees. We also have nearly 100 chickens. We have beehives. Even with the production of all these things directly feeding into the community, we cannot sustain ourselves without agritourism. On top of that, we find it very important. The things that we're doing with our agritourism aren't running, just like a again, like a fall festival. We are trying to teach people how to do this right now. I have a vision for these farms to exist everywhere. We're a designated urban farm for a reason because there isn't 100 acres somewhere for us to farm. We want to repeat this process. We were brand new farmers. We had no background in this 5 years ago. And we've taught ourselves and we've taught hundreds and hundreds of people exactly what we're doing so they can repeat the process on their own. However, we as those educators cannot afford to do this on selling produce, honey, eggs, and flowers alone. We've done it through educational programs. We have 2 12-week homeschool programs that we run. Our summer camps are education focused. They learn all about running an entire homestead while they're there. So everything we do has that in mind. We have an urban farming series where we teach people how to come and learn and repeat the process on their own. We want to make farming happen now. It's been very difficult to accomplish that here because all of the land that we're trying to get has been rezoned. This property here can't be used for anything other than farming. No one else wants to buy it because no one else is farming it. We want to turn it into something amazing, a walkable farmers market, a walkable aftercare program, a community that supports Fort Meade right across the street, and thousands and thousands of people that will flood into this farm and use it for its intended purpose. It's not meant to be an entertainment center. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on Bill 3126?
Can I ask him a question before they leave?
Yes.
All right, I'm sorry. This is unusual, as you all know. We don't usually ask you questions, but this bill, I'm not trying to be mean, but it seems specifically for you. So I want to ask you the questions because no offense to planning and zoning, but this is kind of a you thing. The house you're buying is 8221 Meadowwood Drive, Hanover, Maryland. Is that right? Okay. And it's currently under contract. All right. Bless you. And I mean, the property is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm looking at it. It looks like, to the point that you're making, it's directly in the middle of a neighborhood. So that's what you said is there was the subdivision. This was the carve out of 4 acres. You said no one else wants to buy it. But then I heard Mr. Hager say that you're having problems with the seller because apparently they want to push it forward or get out of contract, I'm guessing. If no one else wants to buy it, why isn't the seller willing to spend a little more time while we get this right?
We've been trying to do this since January, so we've had to get HOA approval. We've been waiting on this bill right here. I can't buy a nearly $1 million property and then not be able to farm it, not be able to do
885,
the things.
but yeah, I mean, that's
Right.
what it looks like it's under contract
Yes.
for. Yeah, okay.
Not reachable for urban farmers by any
No,
means.
I got you.
I mean, draining our entire savings to make this happen. That house has been on the market for a year, on and off for a year. I'm sure they're growing a little impatient with continuing to ask for more delays to get this passed.
And we also did our research. We walked around the neighborhood. We talked to the head of the HOA. We talked to people in the neighborhood, tell them what we want to do. And the feedback we got is positive. They're excited. So we're just not jumping into this and saying, we're just going to hope this works. I mean, this is big for us. We literally talked to the representatives at the HOA. We literally talked to neighbors in the neighborhood, telling them what we're going to do.
We've already pulled together an entire farmers market that's supposed to start on June 10th. As 25 local vendors, all farm-centered, all natural producers and local small businesses.
And the community's good with all that.
I mean, I can't speak for every member of the
Oh,
community.
I'm wondering what's coming next. Go ahead. Yeah.
I would just say that opportunity, to paraphrase, opportunity is the mother of invention. So this legislation is not specifically about these 2 individuals, but they are the first ones to put it into play.
Okay.
So therefore, they're being used as the prototype or the model for what this is going to look like. But we foresee that there's going to be many, many other opportunities in similarly zoned properties, particularly in the northern end of the county where we don't really see a lot of agriculture.
Are you keeping the existing farm that you have?
Yes.
Okay.
The community, we could never close it. The community would kill us.
Yeah, I don't know how we'll retire from that, honestly.
Thank
So, Mr. Smith.
My questions are for Officer Flo.
Okay, so thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
The public hearing on Bill number 3126 is now closed. Administration is back up. Mr. Smith, you can ask away.
So this is for, actually, Ethan, you could, for the administration as well, potentially. So it is, I know Ms. Ledbetter had asked about unintended consequences on the language change Do you see any impacts on the language that's in there now that could negatively impact agritourism in the southern part of the county where most of her businesses that do agritourism are located? Would that conflict with that or change anything that impacts them? Or officer law or zoning or?
Well, I can, Lynn Miller, Planning and Zoning. The primarily the new condition that you're adding in this bill would be the 3-acre minimum lot size. We have, somewhere I have this information. To date, we have we've issued just 6 zoning certificates of use for agritourism. There may be some other farms out there operating something that haven't come in for a zoning certificate of use. But of those that we have, I checked and they are all at least 3 acres. So that condition would not, to my knowledge, create any problems for any of the farms that are currently conducting agritourism activities.
Is there a way the administration could work with the property owners? I mean, I would vote on this tonight, but obviously I want to make sure my colleagues are comfortable, as well as the Ag Commission. You said they're meeting on Thursday?
Yes, I believe so.
Do we have any other legislative days that are coming up before then? Before the next council meeting? Because we're in budget session.
Our charter deems that we could make any day in May a legislative day, so we could potentially bring this back as long as I can advertise it accordingly.
I'm just trying to create options so that if we give the Ag Commission the opportunity on Thursday to meet, and if there's some way that the administration can work with the property owners so that we can let them know that we're serious about assisting them. We just want to, there's one last little hurdle there to make sure, because that Ag Commission, we have it in place for a reason, and to not have their input while this legislation passed, I don't want to create new sort of standards that I think they would be upset at us. And so if you think that would potentially, get the owners who are currently on the land the ability to not, I'm looking their way. I'm trying to find a way to assist them because, I think it's important to still get in front of that Ag Commission, me personally, but I'll vote on this tonight, but that's just me.
Madam
You would do what?
Chair, may I?
Yes, Ms.
Okay.
Ledbetter.
Hey, listen,
Hold on. Wait, we got a couple of questions for you. Hold on. Ms. Ledbetter.
Ms. Ledbetter gives me permission.
Well, I want to make it clear, I am very supportive of this idea. What is important to me is just, I am not an agricultural expert. I represent a lot of folks in the agricultural industry, but exactly what an agricultural building is and how that construction code intersects with the construction code of Anne Arundel County. I know there's barns and there's pole barns and there's a lot of different structures that are utilized or could be utilized on a farm, and how that all intersects into agritourism and the existing businesses in place. That is just that's not what I do for a living. And I'm very desirous to find a path to help you. I just want to make sure that I don't put myself in a position where I'm hurting someone else simultaneously, if that makes sense. And so that's my interest in having the Ag Commission take a look at this, because those are the experts on understanding and also seeing how farmers understand and interpret these words and making sure that they're comfortable. I've run into a few speed bumps along the way in my term where it just really helps to make sure everyone's on the same page, and then you smooth sailing beautifully. And so that would be my desire. I'm totally also on board if we need to do a legislative day so that we could hear this particular bill, if it's to pass it quickly or if a slight amendment needs to be made to get everyone on the same page at that time, I would support that as well, Mr. Smith. But it is, for me, it's more than just the second condition. It's also the first condition, and making sure that the Ag Commission sees that not as problematic.
If I may weigh in on the first condition that you're talking about, maybe I can shed
Yeah,
some light
yeah,
on
I'm
that.
happy to.
Kelly
Please.
Kenny, Supervising County Attorney. There's really no change with what is currently in the code and what this, what new condition number 1 is. It just is really cutting down a lot of the words that are in the zoning code, because right now, all those conditions that you see in the existing code about the 50 occupants at one time in an ag building for an ag use, that's all actually in the construction code. So it's really just all being deleted from Article 18 because it's already in the construction code. So there should be no practical change as far as any ag buildings and any buildings that are used for agritourism. The effect will be the same. They are always reviewed under the same language.
That does make me feel a lot better. I would still be more comfortable having the Ag Commission take a look at it.
Understood.
But I defer to the sponsor and, maybe a vote will ultimately make the decision. See where everyone falls.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If there is no substantive change by eliminating that section, as Ms. Kenny said, and there are no existing ag tourisms that would be impacted by the 3 acres, I don't want to put these folks at risk for losing this opportunity. It is incredibly unique. So I would feel comfortable voting on this tonight, but I also would want that to be a passage of the bill. So if anybody's hung up.
Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to suggest finding a way to move forward as well. And if this bill is is making this more expansive, we're adding R2 and R5. We're not, and if number 1 isn't really an additional condition, only number 2 is a condition. Is there any way to also, I guess that would be amending it, but only make the 3 acre apply to the R2 and R5? So you would get away from, we wouldn't actually be changing anything that already exists in RA, RLD, and R1 for agritourism. Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess you'd have to. I gotcha. But if
You can always
in
come
the
back
same,
with
right, in the
another
same
bill that amends it.
Right, in the, yeah. True. If number 1 isn't really a additional condition, it's just bringing language forward from the construction code, then I don't really see the issue. Thanks.
Mr. Volke.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a cool idea. Like, let me just preface my comments with that. My biggest concern, like, as I'm looking at this property on the map, because I'm not as familiar with this property.
Yeah, I
Mr.
live down the
Smith.
street from it.
Yep, I was gonna say, you're far more familiar with this, but it looks like the way this property is being used right now is it's a private residence of some sort, and then it backs up to another 3 or so acre park that has soccer field, pavilion, things like that, that's associated with the Shipley community there.
No, it's actually, so that whole property used to be farmland, and so they kept that.
I got you.
They built that, the house right there when they built the rest of the houses, and that was just space for, that's not, I don't know if it's not part of, like Parks and Recs or anything like that, it's just.
It's like a private park.
Yeah.
Yeah, community park, yep, I got you. But it's like, so there's a 4 acre parcel, which is what they're looking to buy. It has the farmhouse on it, has a barn, has a couple other things, has a big area. It's in the middle of the community. And then there is the community park that's behind it. Total of that is like 7 some acres, but theirs is 4 and the community park's like 3. That's what I just did. I measured it out, mapped it. The reason I'm concerned, what gives me pause is I understand they went to the community. I understand they talked to them. You do something like this, and all of a sudden then we have vendors going in, and my concern is then I'm going to hear from not me, but you're going to hear from the community, who's going to say, how did this happen? Nobody told us about this. We didn't know. How did this possibly get changed? And we hear that from people all the time. That's my one concern about this.
So I can tell you that when Boyers, for example, or when Shipley was still farming, a lot of the older residents that are adjacent to that property always went to those farms. I don't think there was ever any issues with folks coming, even with Boyer, when they did have vendors there. Mainly it was a family-ran farm, and that one was right down the street from the Shipley one. I don't necessarily think that's going to be a concern.
Okay.
Because of the uniqueness of what they're trying to bring to that community, which is something that you hear residents talk about the good old days. They always sort of reminisce. We used to have a farm here, but this is going to be an opportunity for us to actually bring a small sort of activity back to that area that I think will add value to the citizens that live over there. I don't think that that's going to be a concern.
Look, it's your people. They're the ones, they're going to complain to you,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
me. So, all right. I'm just raising my concern for what I could see happening, because a lot of these houses, I'm not sure whether these people were here in the good old days.
I honestly,
And they may or may not feel.
I actually thought about buying it at one point
did?
when I saw it here last year, and I was like, "Dang, it's a little bit out of my price range." But so it's glad to know that someone else is bringing the activity over there to that community.
I got you.
Ms. Fiedler.
Oh. Well, since my light is on. I would just say, after going through comprehensive rezoning, I think it's pretty clear where folks stand on potential residential development. And again, I reiterate, the diversifying of a farm in my district has brought such an asset to the community. People walk there every single weekend. It has become just a beloved location. So I can see the same happening here. So that's just my personal opinion, having similar situation in District 5.
Mr. Smith.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So do we want to go ahead and vote? Madam Secretary. We're going to start this now. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 3126.
Bill number 3126, an ordinance concerning zoning residential districts, conditional use agritourism.
Any further discussion? Mr. Smith? You said no. Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 3126.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Abstaining.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodbian.
I can't wait to visit, and aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Abstain.
Mr. Smith.
Happily, aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
5 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions. Bill number 3126 has passed.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Resolution number 1026.
Resolution number 1026, resolution endorsing financial assistance from the Maryland Economic Development and Assistance Fund to Holly Poultry Incorporated.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and Anita Dooling, our business development director from Arundel Economic Development Corporation. So this resolution, introduced at the request of the administration on behalf of EDC, endorses a conditional loan from MEDAF, or the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Fund, in the Department of Commerce in the amount of $750,000 to Holly Poultry Incorporated to expand its manufacturing and packaging operations in the county. Holly Poultry is a fresh local supplier of poultry-based products, including beef, pork, and special commodities. The total project costs are estimated at $2,240,000, and Holly Poultry will hire 140 full-time permanent employees by December 31st of 2030. I will also note that there is a 10% match requirement, which will come out of EDC funds, and we're happy to answer any questions.
You've gotten to sit through a nice long meeting tonight. Get a full taste of county council. So, I know, she will never visit us again. So is there any discussion? We will now open the public hearing on resolution number 1026. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on resolution number 1026? Oh, Mr. Higgins. Okay. Come on. All right, you know the drill. That's right. Give your name and address for the record.
So I'm going to be brief. I looked up Holly Poultry. They operate in Space Street in Berlin, and they operate on Wycomico Street in Baltimore. I didn't see any type of business plan. I just saw the word Hanover. They were moving to Hanover. If the council's already been told there's plans to get us there, that's fine, but if not, I struggle with us paying for potentially remodeling in Berlin at that factory or upgrading a facility in Wycomico Street in Baltimore. And I'll give you the rest of the time back, but they're my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. So is there anyone else who wishes to speak on resolution number 1026? Okay. Public hearing on resolution number 1026 is now closed. Ms. Pickard.
Just to assure the constituent, Mr. Higgins, this business owner is looking to operate in Anne Arundel County and bring jobs to Anne Arundel County, and they are actively seeking the state's investment, and we should absolutely pass this resolution with a 7-0 vote tonight.
Mr. Volke.
I agree. I think we'll do that. But can you just confirm for us that they do have to use the money in Anne Arundel County?
Yes,
that's correct. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So, Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 1026.
Resolution number 1026, resolution endorsing financial assistance from the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Fund to Holly Poultry Incorporated.
Okay. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution number 1026.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Resolution number 1026 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 1126.
Resolution number 1126, resolution endorsing financial assistance from the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Fund to Intuitive Machines LLC.
Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, and Jill Porter, business development director from Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. So similar to the last resolution, this one endorses a conditional loan from MEDAF in the Department of Commerce in the amount of $500,000 to Intuitive Machines LLC to expand its manufacturing operations. So Intuitive Machines is headquartered in Texas and provides lunar delivery, data transmission, and infrastructure services for commercial space exploration. They currently operate a leased space at 881 Cromwell Drive, Park Drive in Glen Burnie, and they are planning to expand their manufacturing operations by leasing approximately 69,240 square feet of space at 709 Digital Drive. The total project costs are estimated to be approximately $4.5 million. They currently employ 43 full-time employees and will hire an additional 50 full-time employees by December 31st, 2030 for a minimum of 93 full-time employees. And this assistance would allow the company to accelerate their timeline for implementing the expansion. And again, with the 10% match requirement, Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation will contribute $50,000 in the form of a conditional loan. Happy to answer any questions.
So this is a moon company, right?
This is a space company, and the resolution was aptly introduced on Star Wars Day. So May the 4th.
There we go. Very nice. Mr. Volke.
Did you do that on purpose?
He kind of did.
That was great.
He
Good job.
kind of did.
All right, and again, just to assuage any concerns, not just this has to be in Anne Arundel County, but my understanding is it's a pretty significant process that these folks have to go through in terms of giving you a plan, what they're going to do, detailing all of the requirements of how they're going to use the money, et cetera. So this isn't like we just sort of are doling out money, right?
Correct.
Cool. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Welcome.
All right. Miss Rodvian.
Did I hear lunar delivery?
Yes.
What is delivered?
So they actually work on the mechanisms that fund a lot of the NASA projects. So NASA will come out with specific things they need for their lunar launch or what have you, and then they will create the mechanisms that will allow those things to happen. So it could be collecting dirt on the moon. It could be a lot of different things. Yeah.
Very cool. That's right. Someday. So, all right. We will now open the public hearing on resolution number 1126. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay. No one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on resolution number 1126? Mr. Higgins, do not get up. The public hearing on resolution number 1126 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 1126.
Resolution number 1126, resolution endorsing financial assistance from the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Fund to Intuitive Machines LLC.
Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution number 1126.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
To infinity and beyond. Yes, aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Resolution number 1126 has been adopted.
We appreciate everyone who stuck it out here till the end. Is there any other business any council member would like to bring before the county council at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? The motion carries. The county council is adjourned until tomorrow, May 19th at 7 p.m., when we hold our second and final public hearing on the FY27 budget at Severn Run High School in Millersville.